Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Director Watch, an AwardsWatch podcast that attempts to get inside the mind of cinema's greatest auteurs, explore what drives them, and maybe we go on a few unrelated tangents along the way. I'm Ryan McQuade, the executive editor here at AwardsWatch, and joining me as always is my number one man in command, my co-host, Jay Ledbetter.
Fargo, the never-ending story. Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Brazil. I'm excited to cover one of the great false promises titles ever. The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp.
Oh,
Not what the movie's about. Very excited for it.
that's a great intro, Jay. Good job.
It's
How much research did you put into that one? About 5 minutes before
I
the
think
show?
it's a great title, and there's a reason for the title, and it's very British, and all that stuff. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this is a very British movie.
You don't
One of
say
the more British movies, in my opinion.
that we've ever covered. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting title, and I'm sure there's a conversation to be had about the title itself. And it's one of the great Powell and Pressburger movies.
We're on the run now. This is the run of great films that we're going to be
Is
talking
this one
about.
of the four? Is this the Rushmore? Is this the start of the Rushmore of archers?
I think that this is, if from the general public, or casual fans of them.
Might depend what country you're in.
I guess so. But probably genuinely speaking, this is one of the four they're most known for. I guess mostly it helps having a Criterion release with
Criterion
this.
helps.
That
for sure.
helps. It helps that yeah. I actually, that's just probably the answer there, right, Jay? Like the Criterion release alone.
Well, Tales of Hoffman came out
a couple of years ago. Yeah,
and then might be the disruptor.
And then next week we're doing I Know Where I'm Going, which I love calling it.
And
that.
49th Parallel has a Criterion as well.
Exactly. It's just a DVD at this point, right? Though they don't have
just the DVD.
Just a DVD.
Which,
God, I put a blue on it.
Shame.
There was a laser disc too.
There was a laser disc?
Yep.
God, I missed it.
I believe I still own that laser disc.
Wait, by the way, everyone.
The Criterion Laserdisc?
But hang on, before we get into this, we couldn't do this movie alone. This movie is about a really core threesome inside of it, and we had to have a trio here on the show, and we couldn't do this alone.
Well put, Ryan.
I know. I changed it up there exactly because I knew where it was going, and it's a first-time guest. He's the film critic over at the New York Magazine, right? And Vulture. It's Bilge Ebiri. Bilge, welcome to Director Watch. And I have to ask you, how many Laserdiscs still from Criterion do you have, Bilge?
How many laser discs? I'm not sure. I kept a bunch. So I used to have a lot of them. I was buying them as they were coming out because I was in college at the time when sort of the big ones were coming out. A couple of years ago, about 2.5 years ago, we moved from New York to the New Haven, Connecticut area. And even though we were moving to a place with a lot more space, while sort of trying to shed some of my stuff, I actually got rid of a lot of my I got rid of most of my laser discs. I kept a bunch of like stuff that I was like, either I have some kind of attachment to it, or I have or
they're
they're
rare.
like rare. Yeah, exactly. Like the like I have a signed hard-boiled CAV Criterion that I had John Woo sign. I'm not somebody who, I've interviewed a lot of people. I'm not a big like, can I get you to sign this person? But earlier in my career, I did get my hard-boiled CAV Criterion Laserdisc signed by John Woo, and I got my Adventures of Baron Munchausen Laserdisc signed by Terry Gilliam. So I kept those.
You still have them there?
I still have them. Oh yeah. And I kept my Taxi Driver Criterion because that was rare. Although all the stuff that's on it is now exists in other form. But then last year, my dad was downsizing his stuff, and he sent me basically all his books and his like LPs. Because he didn't want him anymore, and he just wanted to clear out stuff. So this huge truck full of like all my dad's books and LPs arrived, and in there was another box of laser discs. I was like, wait, I had more laser discs. Actually, it was like enormous box of laser discs. So I'm like, somehow a whole bunch of my laser discs had gotten mixed up with my dad's laser discs,
So
and I had not gotten rid of those, and now they're back in my possession.
I don't mean to be that person, even though we're here to talk about the
Go
life and
ahead.
death of Colonel Blimp,
Sure.
but we're on a tangent and we might as well keep going on this. But how does a, and Jay, maybe you know this too. I how does a laser disc work again? Like it's got to have a specific player, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a laser disc player. Yeah.
Yeah, and you put it down like a record.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
size of a record, but
Hmm.
it looks like the, the business end of a CD. Like it's,
Hmm.
I don't know, what is it? Silver reflective
Hmm.
laser surface. Um, and you flip it. So depending on the type of laser disc it is, if it's a CLV laser disc, usually it fits about an hour's worth of material on one side. So you flip it after an hour. If it's a CAV laser disc, which is a higher end, more expensive laser disc, it's about 30 minutes aside. And the difference between CAV and CLV is CAV you can pause it on individual frames, which you can't do
Wow.
on a CLV. And then yeah, so if it was a 2 hour and 15-minute movie, and if it was CLV, you would have three discs. Or sorry, you would have two discs, three sides. In fact, I had a CAV Criterion Laserdisc of Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, and if I remember correctly, that was three discs. So CAV, so it would have been 30 minutes per side, two discs for the 2 hours, and then an extra disc. And of course, also the extras and all that stuff takes up space too. Basically, I mean, it's the same concept as a DVD or a Blu-ray, but just not as, you know, couldn't store as much information. The quality was not as high, although back then the quality seemed amazing. That's the thing I worry about with like, advanced technologies, because at the time when I first saw Laserdisc, it seemed so incredibly crisp and crystal clear and just like so pristine. And then like once DVDs took over, like I could not watch my old Laserdiscs. And now with like, Blu-rays and 4Ks, I'm like, I look at an old DVD from like the late 90s and I'm like, ugh, God, this looks awful. How did I
That
No, it
ever
really
watch
is. I
this?
remember when the DVDs were out, it was just like, yeah, this is what the movie looks like. Obviously,
Yeah.
they nailed it.
I
This is
I
the movie.
I'm telling you, like now we go to, movie discount movie stores or we'll go to half price books or something right there. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm looking for this and this. And my wife will say, oh, well, it's right there. I'm like, that's a DVD. I ain't buying that. What am I in the olden days? Not, no, no. Honey, we can afford, high definition. We can, we'll be
Well, I mean, the
okay.
funniest thing is when they send you they don't do it as much anymore, but when they did send you all the DVD screeners for
Mhm.
FYC season,
Well,
and
I
it's
mean,
like,
this has been my
ooh, I
number
would love
one
to watch The
thing.
Brutalist in 480p. That's or
I mean, like, this is the thing that's funny every year is that when everybody freaks out that they got the neon box set from the critics groups. And then you realize it's like, guys, this is all just a bunch of DVDs with your email slapped on it in the middle of the frame.
This year it was Blu-rays.
Was
This
it
year
Blu-rays this
it
year?
was Blu-rays this year. They still didn't
No.
look great.
Wait a minute. I never see this proves me wrong because I never opened the darn thing, you
This year
I
it
know?
don't
was
think I needed to
Blu-rays.
watch
And
any of them.
and
Yeah.
it's what's funny is that some of them looked like they were actually like release Blu-rays because they had like menus and stuff. So I mean I don't know, probably depending on when they came
Bilge,
out.
if I go and I look at that and I don't have that, one, that's just going to show where Bilge's at and I'm not. But two,
That might be true.
that's going
Bilgo
to be
might be at a
just a
tier
mean
above.
tease at that point, man, of like, wait a minute, what disc did you get and what did I not get,
I'm
man?
I'm pretty sure they were Blu-rays this year. I'm
I knew
pretty
I
sure.
knew Oppenheimer was going to win Best Picture when they sent all the critics 4Ks.
Yeah, I'm
That
telling
was
you,
like
if you want to win Best Picture, and we're recording this still in an Oscar race, I guess.
give it
You
give them
just
to
send out the
us, the
4K.
people on this podcast right now.
People want the 4Ks. They'll win it over your heart, especially if you're gonna like Ryan Coogler when he did that video talking about all the different formats. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, people are obsessed with formats right
He
now.
started it, and now, honestly, I think it's a little overdone.
Did he start it?
I think I think Nolan started it.
That's what I
Nolan
was going to
probably
say. Bill goes
Yeah.
right. Everybody's been giving Coogler this credit, and Nolan kind of started this with Oppenheimer, a couple,
But
and really
Coogler
with
did it cooler than him.
Well, I think Coogler's video was more popular though, but I
yeah,
think
no,
Way
no, it
better.
Nolan
was.
did start because that was part of the thing. And in fact, I remember a you know, bunch of serious film critics were a little upset that Christopher Nolan was like talking to like TikTokers before he would
That's
talk to them.
fair. That
Um,
yeah, he's just
but
trying to get
yeah.
people to see his movie, like and
Also, it's fascinating. Like the IMAX stuff is fascinating. Showing someone like what an IMAX reel looks like is actually mind blowing.
yeah, because
Like
people don't know that.
I still have
It is
trouble
true.
grasping it myself. And all the different formats are fascinating because it's like, yeah, man, there are so many of them.
It makes such a difference.
It
Most
makes a
people
huge difference. Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
were so unforgiving of because like the technology you're talking about, we were talking about laserdisc there for a second, Bilga, but then like the idea of like we don't have people that out of Los Angeles or New York or Chicago, some of the bigger cities, like we had 70 millimeter IMAX screenings for Oppenheimer, and the projection kept breaking or it kept
Yeah.
having issues for certain screenings, and people were so mad. I'm like, some of these people have never done this as a job until probably the last 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and so like give people a little bit of a break. It's not, and it's
Well,
because these necessary mediums haven't been taken care of. It's not the
yeah.
norm anymore.
And it was funny because it was something that people will. This happened to me actually at a Tenet screening. Not when the film came out, but like at a sort of retrospective screening, like a year or two later. I think it was Alamo Drafthouse in New York, one of the Alamos, screened Tenet. And there was something wrong. It was just, they were screening it in 35 or 70 or whatever. I think it was 35. And then something happened halfway through, towards the end, something got screwed up with the sound. And they
Mm,
actually had to like give everybody refunds. I think they did wind up like screening the last part of the movie, but there was a large, significant chunk of the movie that like the sound got screwed up on. Um, and the guy was like, "Yeah, sorry, this is what happens when you're dealing with celluloid." And it was kind of like, "No, motherfucker, this is what happens when like people haven't been dealing with celluloid for a
Yeah.
while. Like I saw
You know who
movies
didn't
on
mess it up? The
celluloid
people who
for
were screening
decades."
when people were screening Pauly Shore's Jury Duty, they didn't screw that up.
This
yeah.
is this is the thing I always say. Like we saw Dunstan checks in 35
Yeah,
millimeter.
exactly.
We're
Nothing
actually
went
reviewing that
wrong.
film next week on the show. I
Thousands
didn't.
of theaters around the country showed movies like this, and like almost there were almost no glitches, or whatever glitches there were like minor. It's like it worked. The system worked.
I am
Obviously,
still just grateful to see it now. Like, I mean,
yeah, of course.
it's a privilege.
I'm
Yeah,
telling you,
Dunstan
seeing
checks in especially.
yeah.
I saw Pulp Fiction within the last year, and they had an
First
audio
time.
screw up. Uh, not the first time I've seen it. First time I've seen it projected on film. And they had an audio screw up, and I was very forgiving because it was
Yeah.
I was still getting to see it screen on
Well,
35.
also
It was
too,
great.
like I saw There Will Be Blood last year at the Paramount in Austin, and it was a rather kind of, it was a good print. It wasn't a great print, like you could tell that thing had been watched 100,000 times,
Yeah.
and rightfully so. And there was some sound in and out sort of towards the middle of the film and stuff like that. But everybody was locked in. And there were people behind me that had never seen it before. Like a guy brought his girlfriend and his parents, and they had never seen the film. And I couldn't help myself. My wife was with me. She's like, don't. And I'm like, I turned around and I said, you haven't seen this film before? And you brought her? I said, oh, you're in for a treat. You're in for a treat. Everybody's laughing at the inappropriate, like at the
Yeah.
scary bits, or the like. They shouldn't be laughing. It's like kind of the sicko moments of that movie. And then
Mhm.
by the end, I just got up, and the couple was still in their seat, and her mouth was on the floor because she was just speechless.
Yep.
And it was just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of a power, like we all got to share this experience.
Dabouche.
It's really, really
Dabouche.
what, Bilgo?
I said
Oh, the movie.
dabouche.
Yes, yes, yes, yes, yes, yes, yes. Um, but speaking about old things and thinking back to the
Old
past
things. Yes.
and thinking back to the good old days, right?
Mhm.
That's where the life and death of Colonel Blimp comes in. So, Bilga, before we get into the film, I gotta get your thoughts on Powell and Pressburger because behind the scenes listeners, I asked Bilge to come on and he was elated about talking about this film. It's read in the text. I read the energy in the text message there.
I believe
Bilge,
the text message was "Give me that blimp."
give me that blimp. It was very much that. And so, but so when you got a response like that, that must mean that you have a great relationship with Powell and Pressburger. And so I just want your kind of thoughts on them as filmmakers and your relationship with their films and their work.
Sure. Yeah. No, I love Powell and Pressburger. I mean, I adore them, and I adore this film, which is certainly one of their masterpieces. I mean, this is probably my favorite of their films, although there are multiple films of theirs that, I will absolutely,
But
die
this
on
is
a
your
hill
favorite.
for. This is my favorite
We
of them.
got you on for your favorite. That's
Oh yeah,
good.
you got me on for the big one for me. Um, I mean, my relationship with Powell and Pressburger is actually started off kind of weird. First time I heard of Michael Powell was actually I was in high school and I was a big film geek from a very young age. And for my senior project in high school, I wanted to do it at the end of senior year in high school. They wanted us to we had to do one kind of independent study kind of thing, and some people did internships, and I wanted to write a sort of an essay on a filmmaker, and I wanted to do it on Bernardo Bertolucci, and I actually did wind up doing it on Bernardo Bertolucci, but who was my favorite filmmaker at the time. I was going to school in Bethesda, Maryland, at University of Maryland, which was about an hour away from us. There was a professor there named Robert Philip Kolker, who's, I mean, he's still around. I don't know if he's still a professor there or if he went somewhere else. But he had written a book on Bernardo Bertolucci, and he'd also written a great, great book on American cinema called A Cinema of Loneliness, which is still one of the best books you'll read about like 70s and 80s American cinema. Um, and I actually went to see Robert Philip Kolker, and I was like, "Listen, I really admire your books, and I know you wrote a book on Bertolucci, um, and I wanted to write this big essay, independent study thing on the films of Bertolucci." And I was because you needed like an advisor for your senior project, so I went to meet with him. And at that point, this was the early 1990s, and at that point he had kind of soured on Bertolucci. Like his book had come out in the mid 80s, and he was not a fan of like The Last Emperor and The Sheltering Sky, and and I love those films, but he was not a big fan of those. And he was like, "Don't do it on Bertolucci, do it on Michael Powell." And I was like, "Who the fuck is Michael Powell?" Uh, and he sort of gave me this like brief rundown of Michael Powell's career, and his focus was actually on Peeping Tom, right? And Peeping Tom is obviously not a Pressburger movie. It was kind of one of Powell's post-Pressburger films
The one that
that
killed Powell's
the
career.
yeah, the one that basically drove him out of the British film industry.
Yeah.
And Kolker told me about this, and I was like, wow, that sounds fascinating, but like I don't know anything about this person, and I don't think I could like sit down and do a whole thing on it. So I wound up doing my Bertolucci thing, but in the back of my head, I had this, all right, Michael Powell, Michael Powell, Michael Powell. So I go to college. My freshman year, I'm taking an intro to film studies class, big lecture class, and we watched Black Narcissus in this class. And then I was like, oh, Michael Powell, that's the guy. And I did not like Black Narcissus one bit. I didn't know what the hell to make of it. And nobody did. Honestly, it was one of the most perplexing films that the professor showed us. And everybody was like, "What?" And professors like, I mean, I went to a school where there was a lot of film theory, so there's talking about homoeroticism and semiotics and stuff like that. And of course, all the students are just like, "What the hell are they talking about?" So I did not love Black Narcissus when I first saw it. And then I watched it again and I was like, okay, I can kind of see like interesting stuff happening in this movie. But at that point I said, you know what? Maybe Michael Powell just isn't for me. So I didn't really follow through on those films. So went through college, watched a million movies, did not watch any Michael Powell films. And then the year after college, I was back in DC, or the summer after college, I was back in DC, back home, and the can't remember if it was the National Gallery of Art or the American Film Institute, did this whole series of Powell and Pressburger. They had restored, there was a restorations. This is like several restorations ago because this was 1995. There were restorations of all the key Powell Pressburger films. And I was, I had nothing to do. I didn't have any job. I was out of college. I was just basically just going to the movies every day. So I went and saw these films, and I was completely fucking like knocked out by them. Every single one of them, I was like, "Holy shit, this is the greatest movie ever made! Holy shit, this is the great! No, no, no, this is the greatest movie ever made!" Just over and over and over again, completely blown away by them, and especially by Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. Um, and after that, I was like, okay, I was totally Powell Pressburger pilled by that point. And then I started hunting down their films, and of course, Criterion had put out at that point they put out Tales of Hoffman and Black Narcissus on laserdisc. I bought those, and then then they put out Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, and I think they did I Know Where I'm Going back then too. 49th Parallel, as we mentioned. So, I was just like going through them. And then, Matter of Life and Death, which was kind of a very hard film to find at that time because that was like somehow had never properly been released in the US or something. So yeah, sort of made my way through this stuff. And, like it just, I became completely obsessed with their work at that point. And of course, Powell was a guy who we were intrigued by Powell also because Scorsese was
Yeah,
obviously such a
Yeah.
big fan of his. And they
sure.
did the commentary together on the Criterion laser discs of Black Narcissus and Colonel Blimp.
Well, and
Um,
Marty was so big and instrumental in the Red Shoes restoration
yes.
for Criterion, the one that was many years ago.
That was his
That was
mentor as much as anybody was.
Yeah. I mean
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean
Yeah.
his editor was married to the
Right.
man as
Yeah.
well. Like
I mean, I
like
think I believe he introduced them.
yes,
But yes.
like he's tied to. I mean, and also just it's. I mean,
Scorsese is as important to Powell as Powell was to Scorsese.
well, I mean,
Oh yeah.
without
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese, do we have most of these films? I mean, he's such an advocate for film restoration, working with Criterion. He
Well,
has his own
the
cinema project. I mean,
restorations, sure. Yeah.
he's just one of the great ambassadors for cinema ever. But yes, I think that there's a. I mean, he owns a pair of the red shoes, like an actual pair of them. Like, talk about like being a fan and then being like, I get to curate everything about my favorite
He's got
director.
the Michael Jordan rookie card,
Yeah, he's got the
He's got
first
the
Air Jordans. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
That's
And he
Michael
played
Powell.
one on one with Jordans in them. You know what I mean? And then they're like, oh, he's actually really good at basketball too. You know?
The I believe I've seen those red shoes because when the Museum of Moving Image did a big Scorsese
Oh,
exhibit,
did he loan them?
if I remember correctly, the red shoes were there because there's a lot of stuff there that was just, I mean, a lot of stuff was, from the archive of his films, but also there was a lot of personal stuff and, stuff he owned. If I remember correctly, the red shoes were there. But yeah, no, I mean, and it is funny because if you watch Powell's films, you don't think, oh yeah, yeah, this guy was clearly a huge influence on Scorsese. Like,
That
and
is true.
I mean, it is funny how the way influence works, right? I mean, once you sort of make the connection and once you hear them talk about it, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
And it's so funny that like, arguably the biggest influence Powell had on Scorsese was on, Raging Bull, the
yeah,
black and white movie that he made. Um, and it was basically like Powell saying you can't, you shouldn't do this in color. The red is all wrong on the boxing gloves.
It's
So
also so funny that you got into Powell and Pressburger in the wake of that like Pulp Fiction, Goodfellas.
mm,
That's kind of when you watched Powell and Pressburger and you were like, these guys rock. Completely, in many ways, antithetical to sort of the
but it is.
cinema of the time. You
I
were
mean,
like,
Jay, but it's also very funny to hear him talk about Powell and Pressburger from like the standpoint of like, it's not something, Bilge, that you put off. You know what I mean? But
no.
but it is something you're like, oh, I had a taste of it. Oh, or yeah, I'll get to it maybe one day. A guy told me about him, and then you know, you've got time, and then you watched all of it, and it's very funny from our experiences because when we first watched and covered Powell and Pressburger, because we've done a series on an old show that we did before,
Mhm.
um, our first time watches with them were during the pandemic, where we had time and we were like,
Sure.
well, let's give them a shot because everybody says, and we hear from Criterion, and we have all this stuff, and so it's different times, but it's almost similar experience of that. Like people stumble upon these, or they hear that they're great, and then
Mhm.
once you sit down, close everything off, and just watch it, you're just like then. It's just like everything just opens up, and you're like, "Wow, I see the light through the end of the tunnel here."
Yeah, and it's so funny. I was
Crazy.
I was I was rewatching Colonel Blimp in preparation for this taping, and I had been I'm always watching stuff, right? Usually for work and sometimes just out of curiosity. And I just
Watching
been
35,
I'm
Wuthering Heights
watching.
movies or
Well, there
whatever.
is that. Yes. Let me never watch another Wuthering Heights adaptation ever
I
again.
actually have a script to pitch you. Um, it's a new
Uh,
version and it's a slight less kinky,
oh no.
but
Oh
we're
no.
gonna market it as
Uh,
it's the most kinky. Is
yeah.
that okay?
Sounds familiar. But the no, but like I'd just been to the Berlin Film Festival where obviously I was watching a lot of stuff, and then I came back and there was stuff that I had missed at Berlin that I had screeners for, so I was watching a lot of stuff. And obviously, as you know, last week I had to watch Scream 7. Um,
We were
and
supposed to record
Lucky,
this,
yes,
lucky you.
but
Yeah.
Boga
yeah,
said, I gotta watch Screen 7. It's
yes,
important.
yes, it's really important that I go out there against the boycott and spend money
I know
watching
it's fun.
Scream
It's
7.
very funny. You said
Uh,
you were
yeah.
you text me and you're like, I gotta go. They're making me go see this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then our own editor in chief, Eric Anderson, puts up, we're not reviewing that movie at
Yeah.
all. And
Yeah.
then the next day, the fucking Ellison deal happens with Warner Brothers, and I'm like emailing him going, shit. Like
Yeah.
this is like gonna
We're
it's
doing
a
great.
very
The
we're
industry is
doing
doing
great.
great.
It's
I'm
yeah,
very
we,
excited.
we
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
monopolies. We love like less studios. It's wonderful. Less movies
And
is
most of all,
always,
we love the Ellison.
if anything,
Yes.
what they're doing is helping Bilga because Bilga sees hundreds of movies a year and they're going to make less of them. And so it's really just it's them helping you and us.
There'll be less movies, but they'll suck more. So,
That's
If
that's the
that might be
Screen
the
dream.
Seven's
trade-off.
any
That's the
indication of
dream.
I
that,
know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
is the AI thing in that movie true?
What's
Is there really AI in that movie?
yeah. No.
Is it just bad CGI?
Well, it's. I mean, how much do you want to know?
I don't care. You can spoil it. Like,
There's a whole thing with Stu, Matthew Lillard's character coming back, and as you know, Matthew Lillard's character like quite
died.
spectacularly died in the first one. Um,
Very extremely.
he
Yes.
he he is extremely dead. So then it's like, wait, what is it? And people are like, oh, is this AI? Like they speculate that in the film, and it is there. It is like a face replacement technology that they're
I
using.
gotcha. I gotcha. I
That
gotcha. I
the
gotcha.
that,
Okay.
that one of the villains is using. You might be shocked to know there's more than one ghost face.
Wait,
Ooh.
what?
I know. Did I just blow your mind?
I don't think they've ever done that before. That seems like a
Yeah,
first.
I mean,
yeah.
That
Bilge did.
seems,
He loved
Scream
it.
7 is
He
full of
loved Scream
firsts.
7.
Uh,
yeah. Booga's like, that's the
Yeah.
best movie of the decade.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. The anyway, so but like so many of the films I'm watching are like either terrible or like not great and I keep like when I'm watching stuff at home I try not to like pause, like I try to just watch it. I
you gotta
watch it on
go all the way
I
through.
have an enormous TV. I have like an 85-inch TV. Turn off the lights. I try to like have a cinematic experience regardless of what I'm watching. And but like I found myself just like pausing in the middle of everything, like just always watching. I'm like, oh God, like I gotta go to the bathroom. I want to make myself some coffee. I don't know. I don't know. I should check email 2 a.m. see if anything important has happened.
Cocaine Bear can wait.
Yeah, exactly. So there are a lot of movies where I did that, and at one point I was wondering, I was like, am I just like do I just like not like movies anymore? Like, am I just like losing my ability to like pay attention to this stuff? And then, of course, I was watching, a couple of nights ago, watching Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. I was like, oh no, no, no, no, it's not me. It's the movies because
It's them.
this fucking rocks, and there's
Did
no
we
way in
just
hell
did
I'm
we
turning this off.
single-handedly prevent Bilge from retiring from film criticism?
I was watching it. I was, oh, right, this is how you do it. Like, this is how you hold my attention. And it is amazing. I mean, especially, I mean, like, obviously, there are plenty of films like this that you can watch, but I
There's plenty
hadn't
of films from
watched
them that you can watch that
from
are like
them.
that.
Yes, like you could watch the movie they made right after this, you know. But like,
Yeah.
but watching it, I was like, oh, right, color. That's a thing I like. I like color.
Big fan
Attention
of
to
color.
detail,
Love
like,
color.
I
you know,
like color. I like
craftsmanship, like it.
score,
Yeah,
performance, characters. I like that stuff.
a story that takes its time. You
A
know,
story that takes the time, a story that kind of transports you somewhere. I mean, it's just like
feels
so
very
much
lived in. You
feels
know,
very lived. I mean, it's just like yeah, and it's not even a movie you would call realistic, but it feels so lived in. It's so beautifully imagined. Yeah, I was like, oh right, like when somebody with talent actually makes a movie, it's good. It's okay. You can watch it and enjoy it.
I
Um,
love that. I love that. Like Jay said, that we saved cinema for you this week. That's very
That's
good.
great. Bilge's going
Um,
to continue for a few more weeks
I was gonna
reviewing
say
films.
when I was rewatching this as well, because I remember it being like it's like a 2 hour and 26 minute 2 hour,
No, it's long. It's like 2:45.
2 hours 45.
like
No,
two
it's
forty
long.
five.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
yeah. It
long
is
one.
long. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's right. This is gonna be the long one. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes. And man, I'm such an idiot because like every time I've watched it again,
Movies
and
are
I'm like,
good, dude.
this movie flies. Like I'm just
Oh
like
yeah.
I'm just sitting there. Like time does not exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It you know, didn't look at the watch like you were saying. I was just glued the whole time because that's what this sort of era and what they do so well is
Mhm.
But this is
they
so much better than most of those movies, though.
oh
This
yeah.
is like one of the masterpieces.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Jay, you love this. It's Bilga's
I
favorite,
love
and
this
I
movie.
love this movie too. We're all putting our cards out on the
This is
table.
top three Archers for me.
Top
Yeah.
three. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm saving my rankings. I'm not gonna do it. You can't make me do it this early in the series. But Bilga,
Bilge, do you like Black Narcissus now, or is it still
Oh,
sort
yeah,
I
of
oh
love
yeah.
I
outside of
love
that?
Black Narcissus.
Okay.
In fact,
Okay.
I try never to miss like a theatrical screening of Black Narcissus now.
Did you call all your classmates after you finally loved it and said, "You guys are wrong. You're all wrong. It's rules." You know? No?
There was
Okay.
actually one classmate who really did love Black Narcissus, and she wasn't even like a film person. She just happened to be taking that class. And I'm still friends with her. And a couple of years ago, we met up for dinner and drinks
How
and stuff.
early in the class did they show that film? Do you remember?
Uh, Good
Was it pretty
question.
early on?
I mean, it was relative. If I remember correctly,
That's a wild movie to show early on.
the class went in like the screenings went in chronological order.
Oh, okay. All right.
So you know, first things we watched were like, you know, Smiling Madame Baudet and Un Chien Andalou and you know, and then Citizen
You
Kane
gotta
and
watch Un Chien Andalou.
Un Chien Andalou is great.
Required.
Oh yeah.
Intro to film
Un
viewing.
Chien Andalou, what was it? What did I just watch? Oh God, what did I just watch that Un Chien Andalou was in? There was a clip of Un Chien Andalou in a
You probably
film.
watched Babylon. It was probably
No, it wasn't. It
Babylon.
wasn't Babylon. It was something at Sundance, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Gosh,
I don't know.
I can't remember what it was. Oh no no no! It was sorry. It was the Salman Rushdie documentary.
Oh,
Um, Salman Rushdie
No.
documentary, Alex Gibney's shop, Salman Rushdie documentary, which is a good film. I actually enjoyed it a lot, and
I've
I'm a
heard it's
big
pretty
Salman
good.
Rushdie fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is good. And it's one of the good Gibneys. But there's a lot of sort of montages in it, and Rushdie himself refers to other movies a lot, and of course he loses an eye in you know, like he lost an eye in the attack, and so there's this little montage of like eyes um, from other films,
Mm.
and they showed the scene from Mun Shandalu where
One of
the
the
you know
Ultimate Eye movies.
one of the Ultimate Eye movies, and they show the you know the slicing of the eyeball, and it was just so like I mean, and that movie, that documentary is full of lots of grisly stuff. I mean, it's got like they have footage, like close-up footage of the attack on Rushdie, which is shocking. But the biggest rise in that audience came from that little clip of Un Chien Andalou. And I was sitting next to the total stranger that I was sitting next to. I just leaned over to him and I go, still works. Still got it, you know? And he's like, yep. He's like, and he knew exactly what I was saying. I was like, yep, Un Chien Andalou still works. Yeah, I mean, then that film, that documentary is full of really intense stuff and really kind of graphic stuff, but still, that little 2 seconds of Un Chien Andalou was the part that got the biggest rise.
God, that's
Um,
awesome.
anyway, so it was relatively early on in the class. It might have been week 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah, that's it's a good film. It's just that's a lot to take in within the first couple weeks, I think, for a
Yeah,
film.
I think at that point we'd watched the silent stuff, and then we'd done, Potemkin, and then we did, I believe we did the Rules of the Game, which is
Oh,
39,
great
Mhm.
film.
Citizen Kane, which is 41, and then I think it would have been Black Narcissus after that because it's
Yeah.
43.
Black
So
Narcissus
yeah,
is a very abrasive movie.
Can I tell you
Maybe
guys
or
their
46.
most
Sorry,
abrasive
yeah,
movie
yeah.
until you get to Peeping Tom.
can I tell you guys like a pretty out there take?
Sure.
Sure.
God, that Citizen Kane's a good movie. I just got to put that out
Citizen
there. I
Kane,
don't know
good
if
film.
anybody's ever said it, but
Yeah,
it's
very
pretty good.
much Norman Rockwell guy, hand on his heart.
Who
Citizen Kane is a good
that's a
actual.
who directed that one?
Little guy by the name of
Greg
Orson
Toland.
Welles.
Greg Toland.
Greg Toland.
Greg Toland. Greg Toland. Um, no, but
Yeah.
actually, speaking of Criterion, back in 2021, I did the essay for the re-released Criterion Citizen Kane, the
Yes, you
score.
did, and it was
Um,
wonderful.
well, it was interesting because it came to me as because they had, they put it out before, so it wasn't like they didn't have materials, but they were like, we want to do a big essay that's like kind of sort of excerpts the other things that people have said about it over the years. So it was fun because I got to go back over the history of Kane and read almost not everything. 'Cause so
Was
much
the
stuff.
title of it "Give Me That Cane"?
Give me that Kane.
There you go.
But I went back and it was funny because like Citizen Kane, obviously a movie I love, probably not even my favorite Wells, but a movie I love, have seen many times. And of course, over the course of writing that essay, I watched it again multiple times. But there was one screening, and I was in my basement. My wife and son were away, um, and I was just watching it by myself in the middle of the night, and it ended. And I did the Kane slow clap. I actually got up out of my off my couch and applauded in the middle of the night in my basement where nobody except my like deaf cat could see me. Um, and it was just like Citizen Kane is not just good, it's like really good. Like it is like
It
a
is one of those things where you want it to not be as good as people claim it
Because
is,
it's like the number one movie
just to
on
feel a
AFI and all
little
that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
superior. Yeah.
You
And then
want to be
you're
able to
just like, it
find
is that good.
stuff about it that's like, yeah, maybe this part didn't work. And by the end, you're like, fuck it, man, this thing rules.
Yeah. It's fully
Okay, well,
taken.
I have two questions for Bilge here. One, what is your favorite Wells if it isn't Citizen Kane?
This is a good question. I have to say it's probably like a tie with Kane. F for Fake, I really, really love.
Yeah.
And the Trial I really love. I've always
Mm.
really loved the Trial. And in fact, it's been nice over the years to see the Trial get reappraised because there was a long time when the Trial was not as widely beloved as it is now. People acknowledge that it was a film that Wells felt that he finally had total control over, like the first one since Kane.
Hmm.
Or actually, the first one since Magnificent Ambersons, probably. But obviously, he lost control of Magnificent Ambersons. But I love the Trial. I also love the Magnificent Ambersons. I mean,
In whatever form it is now.
yeah. I mean, that ending is not great. But up until that ending, it is like the greatest movie ever made. I mean, it is so funny though. It's like, yeah, he did Citizen Kane, which for many years was acknowledged as the greatest movie ever made, and then he made The Magnificent Ambersons, which, wow, like what do you do with that?
And then the more important question is, as the author of the Criterion essay, that Criterion packaging, it's a problem.
Yeah,
Jay,
that
you can't go after the man for the
It's a
packaging. He had
problem.
nothing to do with
The
that.
essay is incredible. The
I
packaging is a
I
problem.
will say when they first showed me like a PDF of the packaging, I was like, that looks actually awesome, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind the packaging, but I know that it's like it's you know, they get creative with the packaging. They get creative with the packaging because it's like a thing that they want to be creative with and artful with. Um, but I can say I am a meat and potatoes packaging kind of person. I am kind of a, you know what, just give me the old box. Make sure it's the right size. Make sure it's the same size as everything else because it's going on the shelf, and the shelf has been precisely calibrated to fit this. Don't give me this fucking like something that's suddenly the size of a book.
You mean
Um,
like the Wong Kar Wai box set?
I'm more
It's
worried about
like,
the origami folding of the
yeah,
yeah, the folding is
package. It's
it
crazy.
yeah. I mean, I will say I've only ever opened it once.
yeah. Because then you were like, how the fuck do I close this?
Yeah.
It's one of those where,
Oh
yeah, I
wait,
mean,
it's entirely frayed now, and I opened it one time.
You
no,
know,
for sure.
I have this old box set, DVD box set of it's either the Murnau and Borzage box set or the Ford at Fox box set. These were like these big box sets that that they put out years ago. Um and the packaging in like the really impressive giant box sets that are like on the top of my bookshelf, but the packaging in them was so wonky. Like you know the discs had to fit inside these very tight paper sleeves that I'm like afraid to open them. I'm afraid to watch those discs because I'm like, gosh, they must have just gotten totally scratched, you know?
That's true. The worst one was the Godzilla set, where the glue was loose and all the
Mm,
discs got
yeah. The
glue on
Ford
them.
Fox and the more Nabrzegi ones were not they were not
Yeah.
Criterion. They were like studio sets,
Sure,
but yeah.
sure.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's I am very basic when it comes to like
I'm
DVD
kind of like, just let me
boxes.
watch the movie. Let's
Yeah,
not risk the, you know.
I mean,
okay, yeah.
I'm all for having extra stuff. I'm all for having like the essays. In fact, sometimes I write these
Absolutely. I
essays. I
love the
love the
essays.
booklets.
Yeah.
I'm just like, just you know, just give me the box, give me the plastic or whatever it is. Just I don't want to. I don't want you to reinvent the box concept and then like 20 years later I pull it out and I'm like, oh look, everything is scratched to shit now. You know?
Exactly.
Well, a movie that has a good box and was
Very basic
also,
box. A
Mm.
very thick booklet though.
but also
Not
had,
chrono.
was received at its time, not as favorable, but over time has become a
Winston
classic. Is
Churchill, not a fan.
The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. And so, Boga, I'm going to kick it over to Jay first, if
Oh,
that's
sure.
okay.
Wow.
Jay, you've been putting it up there. We know Bilgus is his favorite. We'll get to Bilgus' thoughts in a second. But Jay,
Yeah.
you said top three. It's a rewatch, obviously. Jay, The Life and Death and Colonel Blimp for yourself. What'd you think about it on the rewatch?
I absolutely adore it, especially when you consider it as a film that was released during World War II. I mean, I think it is sort of an unfathomable work. Um, coming off of 49th Parallel, which was a film that very much feels like a government sponsored movie in a lot of ways. Michael Powell was like, I want to try and convince America to enter World War II. And then Pearl Harbor happened. So they kind of did it anyway before that movie came out. Um, Colonel Blimp is a film. It's remarkable to me because it is so self-critical as a British film. Not just self-critical of World War II, because World War II is in a lot of ways the most straightforward war of the last, 100 years, 100 plus years. But what Powell and Pressburger are able to do is establish that while the individuals in World War II largely are well intentioned, and even the individuals, even the Germans who have sort of converted to some sort of Anglo perspective in World War II are well intentioned, which is where that propaganda comes into play. I think about the scenes where they have the big game heads on the wall, where that is really just a reflection of English obsession with colonialism. And then you have the really jarring shot of the German helmet at the end, which is just all about this continuation, this extension of English colonialism that becomes all of a sudden about a distinct war. And just this entire idea, you know what? There's one movie that this reminds me of, and it's one of my four favorite movies ever made, and that's Barry Lyndon. Barry Lyndon is very much about the politeness of barbarism, and Colonel Blimp is very much about these people that are feigning manners in the midst of violence. The one of my favorite scenes in Colonel Blimp is the Germans and the English meeting at the door of the hospital as they're trying to meet their comrades, and they're trying to convince one or the other to go first, just to be polite. And then they end up basically holding hands going through the door to meet their buddies. It is so much about the idea of decorum and how that has sort of faded away in the face of World War II. And it also reminds me of The Hurt Locker, which is another movie that is about how war has disintegrated into a completely different mode of randomness, even far, far, far beyond what was seen in World War II. I think it is incredible that a film released in the midst of World War II could be this self-critical. They did not get the government funding that they were maybe lobbying for at the time,
Yeah, probably not.
and it is very obvious why that was. I think this is and I really do think this is an absolute masterpiece.
Yeah. Bilgo, talk about it. Why is it your favorite Powell and Pressburger film? What about it do you love?
I mean, there's so many things to love about it. In some weird way, I wonder if it's maybe their most personal film, just because of the relationship between, this German and this Englishman who is very English, and this dynamic between the very polite, very proper, very awkward German man, who even at the beginning is very awkward, right? I mean, even when they're in Germany, he's awkward. Um,
But he's nice.
he's nice, but he's awkward. Um, and and the British guy is he's at such ease in his surroundings. He always like he comes from this tradition and this sense of impenetrability, like impermeability. This is not a
Bullets will
person.
bounce off of this
Bullets
man.
will bounce off him exactly. He'll, duel, sure, yeah, why not? Duel, whatever. He just steps into the fray and never seems to be worried about what will happen to him. Never seems to be worried. I mean, he goes home, his aunt. I mean, they're like, oh, we have a. She says something like, I have a house with 18 rooms. You can see and they're all empty, and it's like 18 rooms. Just think about that. 18 rooms. I mean, he comes from
During that
this
time period,
yeah, and this is very much like Powell himself. I don't know that Powell was like super wealthy, but he came from this like very, very British kind of established background. And and and like you can sense their dynamic within. That's not necessarily why it's great. Why it's great though is that feels so alive, right? That doesn't feel like just a thing they made up, for the the the convenience of this particular narrative. It feels like it comes from someplace, like it's lived in, it's detailed, it's well observed. So you're just immediately just sort of swept away by this relationship, and also by, I think it's a very romantic film. I mean, they have other romantic films, like romanticism was in their blood, but it is the sort of weird, almost unrequited romanticism in the film, even though it's not unrequited. It's almost like unfulfilled romanticism. I mean, and the fact that Deborah Kerr plays these three characters throughout,
Yeah.
but plays them all. It's but it's not this kind of every woman has the same face kind of thing. Each one of those characters is different. I mean, she moves
Hmm.
differently in each part. It's such a well modulated performance. I mean, the way that the governess character, the first one, her sort of rectitude, and then the sort of weird melancholy of the nurse. I can't remember everybody's names. Uh, and then the sort of spitfire quality of like the driver, like each of those characters
Barbara
is,
and Johnny. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Oh, Johnny, yeah. But like it's funny because when I first saw the film, at first it didn't occur to me, like I didn't realize it was her the first time. I mean, I realized obviously while watching, but like when you first see them, because they were so different, each one was so
If you don't
different.
know that, it's entirely fair that you don't realize it
That first
while
close up
watching
of
the movie.
Johnny,
Yeah.
that first close up of Johnny, every time it takes me
Completely
by surprise.
looks like a completely different person.
Yeah, the way the lipstick is. I mean, there's also, I mean, Laura Mulvey would like go to town on this movie, and I'm sure she did. But it is like like that element is also so beautiful, and the fact that, I mean, you mentioned um, all the animal heads on the wall and the way they keep popping up, but they also pop up after loss. Like it is like he
Yeah.
sublimates his frustrations into just like you know killing all these animals, and it's played for laughs, and it actually is. I mean, they're beautiful montages. But it is also, it's one of these movies. I mean, they would kill you if you made this movie today. I mean, the idea that like it's in the middle of the war and it's 1943, like, I mean, the end of the war is not a certitude at this point, and it's like a comedy. I mean, obviously there were a lot of films like this at the time. It's not like not a lot of films like this, but like there were other comedies. But it is kind of like when you watch it, like this is not a film that's being made 5 years after the war. This is not a film that's being made like retrospective. This is in the middle of the war they're
It's a
making this
mid-war
movie.
farce. Yeah, it's crazy.
Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, you can see how Churchill was obsessed with this movie, like, trying to like destroy it. And inadvertently made it like super popular as a result. But
Yeah,
yeah.
he did. Um, I got to tell you, this movie is wonderful. It completely opened up for me as I was watching it the second go round. Not that it hadn't before, but I guess like 5 years, and you start really picking up on more things after an initial rewatch. And I was struck by, while yes, this is a farce, and that there is comedy to this, there is profound sadness, and
Mhm.
I think that there is a lot of Powell and Pressburger talking about institutionalization and the dangers of it. And I think that I sort of forget about that because, you know, what's left by this man isn't a celebration of life. It's a romance movie, like you say, Bilge, but there is a breakup, and that is between the British government and the military and this man.
Yeah.
And he loves that position, and he loves his place in as the cog and a major cog in this machine. And when they take it away from him, there is just that scene where they're all around him and they're trying to cheer him up and get him to realize that like there's other ways to help other than just being a colonel, being in the military. There's training. There's passing on your abilities to the next. There's it's being, don't be down, be proactive. And because the next generation needs somebody like that rather than somebody in a massive amount of power.
Yeah.
And for me watching it, I was completely taken by that, and that this guy, I mean, he gave up essentially the love of his life for this. He's in this war. He is, his friendship is with a very nice German. Even though clearly he has probably during that war had no business being. near, him as a friend because of everything. And
Also,
yet
Germans during World War One and Germans during World War Two
completely
were
different
it's a
and
very different thing.
very
Yeah.
different thing. But what the film does show us is like it had the as he's inside the military industrial complex, he can he can move and operate much like he does in high society. He can fall forward instead of fall back. And you can do that if you have looks and then you have brains and you're willing to go and fight and without asking any questions. And you really don't have to have a viewpoint. Like that's the thing about Theo is that he has a viewpoint. He has a realism about his country and he has a realism about the effect that his country has taken upon the war and what it really means after the war and that that it's not going to be like it's not going to be roses after this thing. And truly, the centerpiece of this movie is Anton Warburg's scene where he's being essentially interrogated,
Yeah.
and he's confessing about, and it's the complete mirror uh, of the colonel here, where you're just like where you're watching a man who is desperate to try to find a home, has lost his wife, his children have become Nazis, and he's the only thing he can rely on is his friend who showed him kindness one year, many years ago in a duel, and gave him the life that he has. And it's so very interesting about how those those trophies on the wall, those animals. To me, it was springing almost as a metaphor to him as a character of like how the British think that because they do a favor or they pass something on, or how anybody in charge thinks that they do something and that they've taken credit for all that. But then when they're on their luck, the movie does, I think, kind of demonstrate that if you do show some form of kindness beyond just being uh, completely endowed to your country, that humanity is the real thing that matters
Well,
through it
it's
all,
humanizing a German in 1942, 1943,
which is what the
which
movie was
is
so
it's
skewered for,
crazy.
which is crazy
That's why
because
I didn't get any government funding.
exactly. And well, I also think too, like 49th Parallel, watching that film and watching this, it's
49th
like
Parallel is very
I
much a
know
pro English.
true,
That
but
was a movie made explicitly to convince
very
America to
much
join
so.
World War II.
But it's just very interesting about like that movie, unintentionally or not, makes its protagonists in the traditionalist sense that you're following along this entire journey, literal Nazis. And yes, they're moving and moving and moving closer, and then the door is slammed on them, and then the movie ends, and it's like, yeah, screw the Nazis, you know what I mean, and everything.
Wartime films from very interesting to watch. I
They
think
really,
about Shensuro Sugata from Kurosawa is a
Mhm.
that's basically Rocky Four for Japan in World War II.
but it's just very funny how like the movie clearly states that Theo is not a Nazi, and
Yeah.
and he has
Yes,
picked a side.
absolutely.
And yet it it reminded me of when I was reading up on it. And Jay, it's funny you mentioned a Catherine Bigelow film. And I think you guys both remember this. It reminded me of when Zero Dark 30 came out and the stuff about the torture came out, and people went so crazy over it. And it's like, well, the movie just kind of shows it. It doesn't actually take a side, and it's not, and Theo takes a side though in this movie. It's like Nazis are bad. I had to cut off
But the thing is,
relationship with my
World War
children.
II is
You
the
know,
is kind of the most black and white
yeah, it's
war
just
of
black and white
the
ever. And so for them to be
20th
like,
the
well, he's a
21st
German,
century.
it's very interesting just how like real life
Humanizing a
is.
German is a
It's
bold, bold, bold choice.
even if they're against it and everything. But Bill, good. I think you wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I mean, there are a couple of things. One, it's interesting because um, Chris Schuldorf has, like, Um, he maintains his integrity throughout, and he loses his country. And and at the end, what they're actually kind of arguing for, they don't really argue this for you know, for for Clive, but it's almost like they're trying to say, I kept my integrity and I lost my country. You should not keep your integrity. Like you should actually maybe debase yourself. That's not the word I'm looking for, but you should be more ruthless to preserve your country.
Hmm.
And in many ways, Theo is such an admirable character. I mean, he is a very admirable character. I mean, we love him. He's beautiful. That monologue you mentioned is one of the great monologues in
Ever.
film history. I mean, watching it again the other night, I was just like, what, in tears. Um, so like even there's this amazing contrast between the two of them, right? Clive Candy sort of is always up for, the rules of war, the rules of engagement, the old boys network, as soon as the war is over, he's like, oh yeah, we're all friends now, right? I mean, he's just this kind of, very by the book in certain ways, even though earlier on he's not by the book at all in terms of like going to Germany and engaging with this spy. Um, but he is very much kind of the sporting type, let's say. Um, and he can be. And obviously the film isn't equating Germany and Britain in any way, obviously not, but there's this kind of like, well, Britain can take it. You can compromise your principles all you want, but Britain will always persevere, and it will restore your integrity back to you as long as you preserve it, which may or may not be true, but that is kind of the film's point of view. Um, so it's fascinating how they're mirrored even in the fact that one is able to maintain his integrity after having lost his country, and the other one has to kind of sort of compromise his integrity to a certain extent so that he can preserve his country. The other thing I wanted to mention, Jay, you mentioned Barry Lyndon, which is, probably my favorite film of all time. But this is also like Barry Lyndon in this sense. And there are a couple of films like this, but it's a rare thing in a movie, um, where the film grows up with you. And I can say now, I mean,
Sure.
I'm 52 years old. I respond to different parts of this movie at age 52 than I did at age 22, which was when I first saw it, or at age 30 or 32 or 42 over there. I mean, I've watched it many, many times over the years. Every time I watch it, and this is also true of Barry Lyndon, which I've seen like 100+ times. Every
It's
time
a
I
lot of
watch it,
hours logged.
it's
It's
a
a
lot
long
of hours
movie.
logged. I've logged a lot of hours with Barry Lyndon, but every time I watch it, there is some other part of the movie where I'm like, oh, no, no, wait, I think this is the part that really speaks to me. It's like, and the movie grows up with you. And other films, there are lots of movies obviously that will kind of take in the entire arc of a person's life, but they don't do it so effectively as these two movies do, where at any given point there is some element that you can relate to given where you are in your life.
I
Um,
think I think I think I really with Clyde, I was struck of just about how quickly on this watch they were willing to they wanted to get rid of him. That knowledge, that expertise in a
mhm.
time and how the world has already shifted in just a mere
Well,
amount of couple of
that's the
years. And
opening
it's,
sequence, which
well,
is
yeah,
never really addressed again. The opening
no,
sequence is about this guy who believes in some sort of honesty in warfare, and this youngster is like, it starts at midnight. No, it starts at 9, man.
yeah,
It starts
yeah,
whenever I say it
yeah.
starts.
We're starting it, and we're we're we're
Even when
we're
it's
on our
some
own
false sense of
rules.
warfare,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
the world has changed, and I
yeah.
think that is one of those things that continues to be a theme of war movies since 1943 until now. Apocalypse Now is very much about that.
I don't
Platoon
even.
is entirely about that.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I
The
don't even
Hurt
think.
Locker is entirely about that. It's a thing that continues to be a pertinent theme to this day.
But I don't think it's just
Oh,
necessarily
by the
what
way, we
I'm
just attacked
saying.
Iran
Yeah, yeah.
as
Um,
we're recording this, so
yeah. I
we're doing
don't
great.
think that I don't think it necessarily just has to fit into war films. I mean, I think that this just speaks to generational movement. I think of just times and things changed. I mean, you know, countries and policies and things have to we're at a weird quagmire as a country. Yes, I know Jay's itching to talk about politics on here, but
We'd
but
love to talk about it.
but we really are like at a turning point of trying to figure out where we are as an ideology of our country. And it's really a lot of ways by the end of this film and how Clyde is treated and how you know these young bucks are treating them and everything. It weirdly got me to was thinking about a movie that came out last year that we all know and have seen, and I think Bilge you like. I don't know your thoughts on Paul Thomas Anderson's latest film, One Battle After Another. But I was thinking a little bit about that. Like that movie approached differently about the generational baton passing. And this movie here, it has that.
I've got another movie that I want, a very modern movie that I want to talk about in that regard.
Is this Spring Breakers, and that's what you're going to compare this? No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's
But anyway,
it's honestly, and this will speak to Bilga. It's Black Hat. This movie kind of reminds me of Black Hat.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean,
there is a little bit of that there. Yes.
there
Yeah.
is, Michael Mann is all about this kind of stuff, right? I mean, uh, this is a tangent that could result in another hour of podcast, but
Black Hat is the ultimate analog to digital movie, and this is the ultimate like polite to unpolite war movie.
Yeah. It's when it's a really it's a changing of the guard in
yeah.
such a way.
Well, the thing about Mann is his whole thing is he talks like one of his characters that I got to be on the edge. I got to be on the edge. It's got to keep me sharp. I got to be on the edge. But like that is very much his philosophy
Hmm.
with everything he does, right? Um, with the style of his films, with the subject matter of his films, with the characters of his films. It's always about about being out there beyond sort of established order.
Hmm.
Um, and and you know, like Life and Death of Colonel Blimp is nothing like a Michael Mann movie, but it does have a Michael Mann character. That
Yes.
young guy at the beginning, that that guy is a Michael Mann character. He's like, war starts at midnight. Fuck you. War starts when I say it does, and I'm gonna get you before war starts. Like that's that's a guy who's out on the edge. And of course, the whole point of the film is Once Upon a Time, Clive Candy was that guy within the
Yeah.
context of
I would just
He
like
was
to
that
let the
man. Yeah.
listeners know Bilga legitimizing my comparison to Michael Mann is like a huge deal.
And I just want to let all the listeners know too,
Congratulations to
Bilga, you
me.
can never, ever come back on the show if you're going to keep patting that ego of his, because then we will never hear the end of it.
But
I
what
On
was
love
the show.
funny
Michael
was
Mann, man.
No,
even
I
before
get
you
what you're
brought
saying.
up even before you brought up Black Cat, I was thinking I have Manhunter on the mind on the brain right now for a variety of reasons, including the fact that I just finally read Red Dragon, the novel. But I was thinking of Manhunter, thinking of Manhunter and the idea of this, of Will Graham and sort of how he has to basically catch, you know, the Tooth Fairy by sort of essentially completely compromising his identity and
Yeah.
allowing himself to kind of effectively enter this person's mind
Yeah.
and really go to an incredibly dark place while everybody around him is like acknowledging that they can never do that, right?
Yeah.
His wife is like, "Stop it! Why?
You should
No! Oh
probably
God,
not do
no!"
this. It's probably
Yeah,
going to get you killed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then like Jack Crawford, his old boss is like, yeah,
Whatever
you're the
methods you
only one
want.
that you're the only one that can do this guy,
It's
so
also
it
great.
is,
They're just like going to throw Will into all of it, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, and oh, the guy that stabbed you, make sure you talk to him a lot. I
yeah,
mean, he's going to be
exactly.
your number one help.
I mean, it is kind of, that's the whole Michael Mann thing, right? I mean, the character who has to live on the edge. Um, so yeah, so you're absolutely right in that connection. But yeah, that's the thing about the film, though. It's the thing about Colonel Blimp. Like the film contains so many elements that you can just like run with. and and it juggle isn't quite the word I'm looking for because juggle suggests that they're separate and that the director and writer are
Hmm.
just kind of juggling them. They're not. Like it's all perfectly integrated into the story. It doesn't feel like there are a bunch of different elements floating out there. But there's so many little strands that you can pick and just like go down a completely, different rabbit hole with other films. And we just talked about Barry Lyndon and now we're talking about Black Hat and Manhunter. Like what the fuck, dude?
Well,
Um,
I also think too, like
That just
going
means it's
down
good.
different.
yeah.
It's a really good movie.
No, and this is the thing about Black Narcissus, sorry,
I don't know.
Ryan, I interrupted, but a thing I wanted to mention about Black Narcissus, I mean, like I said, I watch Black Narcissus all the time. I love it. A couple of years ago, Alamo Drafthouse was showing it, and I went and saw it. And there was a moment in Black Narcissus towards the end, when I'm terrible with names. I should know everybody's names by this point, but the crazy sister, the nun who goes crazy at the end. Um, there's a close up of her when she comes out. I mean, the shot I'm talking about, right? She
Yes.
steps
Yeah.
out and she's just
Oh
like
yeah, the most
completely,
famous shot of the movie. Yeah,
yeah, the most famous shot of the movie. And that shot, I remember watching it at that moment and thinking to myself, I feel like all of modern cinema is like invented at this very moment. Like single-handedly, that
it
shot
does
kind of
feel that way. Yeah,
invents modern cinema because it's not just that she's going crazy. That shot itself is so disruptive to the narrative of the film and to the kind of style of the film. At that moment, the film goes crazy. Like the idea of a film going crazy along with the character, like that's new. And that's like, I mean, I'm sure it's not the other films have done that, but it is like it's that moment that really jumps out as like all of modern cinema kind of flows from this moment because after this, anything is possible. Um, so like Powell and Pressburger, like they weren't just, I mean, they were great craftsmen and they understood film language and they understood how to make a film for their times. But there was just something like just incredibly visionary, almost intuitively visionary about their work as well. And probably, in this case, we do have to give the credit, I think, to Powell. But like there was something in him that whether it was conscious or not, or how conscious it was, or whether it was a muse or a kind of just this intellectualized project that he had, but the man couldn't help but just like fucking invent shit as he forged on with all these films. And that's, I mean, there's so many moments in Life and Death of Colonel Blimp where I'm just like, God, that feels so new. Even now, it just feels like had anybody done that before? Like they probably had, but like it feels new. Like Scorsese credits Tales of Hoffman with like the first jump cut, years before Godard. There's a moment where like there's like a bunch of rubies that are being like placed in someone's hand, and it's like, oh, there's a jump cut. Like people hadn't done that before. But yeah, he's just constantly inventing.
I felt that when
I was
you
googling Bilga. I googled your name and Powell and Pressburger. Can you name the only thing that you have explicitly written about Powell and Pressburger online?
Online, because I can tell you another thing I wrote about them,
Yeah,
not online. It's probably a thing I wrote about Gone to Earth.
Gone to Earth, which is a
Yeah,
great film. Yeah.
great film. Yeah. I think I wrote about it actually. I wrote about it initially for it would have been for Nerve's film blog because I used to do a feature called Forgotten Films there. But then that went under, so I transported all that stuff to my own blog years ago.
Hmm.
So that would have been Gone to Earth. No, but actually my sorry. I didn't freeze, did I?
No, you're good.
Okay, because I just got a little thing saying that one of my things had disconnected, which sometimes happens when I lose connection. But actually, very early on in my career as a film critic, I wrote about, if I remember correctly, it was about Contraband. When Contraband first came out on VHS,
A
because
very good film. Yeah.
a lot of their films had come out by this point, but Contraband was, I think, the one of the very few ones that had never been released on home video. And it was released on home video in, I believe, 1999. And I wrote a long piece about it for Time Out New York. Um, and I actually date the beginning of my career as a film critic to that. 98 or
Wow.
99, because it was I'd written other stuff by that before then, but this was the first time that somebody let me have like 700 words to write about something in like an established uh, outlet magazine at that point. Because before that I'd written like book reviews and stuff for Time Out, but this was a friend of mine, Andrew Johnston, who was the video editor there, who has since passed away. But it was one of these like, hey, listen, I know you're a Powell Pressburger fan, and this movie is finally coming out on VHS. Would you like to write about it for us? And I date that, like that is when I say I became a film critic.
It's pretty crazy that your most read piece was your first piece, the contraband piece.
Yeah, it wasn't my most read piece, but it was
No,
probably,
I'm kidding.
but it was the first one that I kind of think of. I recently dug it up. Time Out used to have a really good archive of its stuff, but it does not anymore. But yeah. Anyway, so that's another one. I feel like I must have written about them at some point
We
in
got an
some.
archer's head here, man.
Yeah, we do. We do. We've got somebody here that knows their stuff about these wonderful filmmakers. Guys, do you have anything? I mean, we could talk about this movie. There's so many shots. I mean, Bilge, you're absolutely right. Like I think that shot of like the duel.
Hmm.
There's multiple shots in like in the preset of the duel, but then
Yeah.
It's just
the
so
the
awesome that
panning the
he
panning
gets
back of
his.
the crane from the duel to outside.
Yeah.
Like that's one of those scenes. Like the transition from the in the beginning of the film from the fight in the pool to the present day in the or in the
Hmm.
events of the film that we're going to
The
see play out.
transition.
The
Yes,
transition there is just
that's
incredible.
incredible.
There's
The
so
blues
many.
in the pool there. Technicolor is just like automatic 3.5 stars.
I go back
And
to
then again,
Bilge
then
what
it
he
goes
said at the
from there.
beginning of the show where it's
Yeah.
like, why don't movies look like this anymore? Why did we stop doing this? Maybe
I
it's
mean, yeah.
digital projection. Maybe it's not. I don't know, but there's just like the sensibility of like,
Yeah.
hey, you know what really looks good on film? Colors. Colors
Well,
look good.
I mean, one reason why they don't look like this anymore is because Technicolor sold all its labs to
Yeah,
China in the 80s.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then you got the Chinese fifth generation films. Like, there's a reason why all those movies look amazing. It's like they had the Technicolor
Yeah.
yeah.
labs.
They stole it and it looks great. You know what I
And
mean?
then
Like they got
and,
it fair and
and then
square in the
Technicolor
deal.
and then Technicolor started more labs in the 90s. And you guys probably know, like there's a period in the like mid to late 90s when suddenly movies look amazing. Like they're just like incredibly colorful and vivid. Some of that is because like Technicolor came back and then they got rid of it again. So now they look like shit again. But it is
I don't know. Ant-Man Quantumania looked pretty good.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, Quantumania cannot be denied.
We came back.
But no, what was I going to say? In terms of color, obviously, that's incredible. But no, the thing you were gonna the thing you mentioned about the duel, like that shot, the transition, right? I mean, there's the pool, but then there's that kind of crane up out of the duel
Into the snow.
to
Not showing the duel. Yeah.
not showing the duel, but then
Yeah.
it's like, then it's like a miniature, and then it kind of goes
Oh, it's
down, and then we
amazing.
see, and then suddenly we're like back in the world of like, people. But it's like they're not trying to cover the seams,
No.
they're not trying. I mean, it's so beautifully fluid, but there's no sense of like, oh, we're gonna make you think we really did all this. Like,
There's
there's
no
no
like
sense.
trick.
It's not like it's not technical, all right? It's not a technical. I mean, it is a
I
technical
love
thing they're doing,
artifice. I love
right?
it.
But yeah, it's like I mean, Black Narcissus is full of that stuff, right? I mean, stuff
Yeah.
that's like clearly a set, clearly like a miniature, but it looks fucking incredible, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's
The
like
mixture of miniatures, of matte paintings, of just
Matte paintings,
the
man. That's
things
what
that
we're
you can
missing
the
nowadays.
things that you can do. I was showing my wife the clips of this the other day, and she's just like, I was just like, look at those matte paintings. Like, tell me, like, who's doing that shit anymore? Like, no one does that. Like, where's the like maybe
They're not
Wes
allowed
Anderson,
to.
maybe some Wes Anderson stuff, because
yeah.
he's but like it's
There,
like
there,
it's such an art form. Like I was just thinking, like Jay mentioned a couple of weeks ago, on don't remember what show you mentioned it, Jay, but Jay was talking about like remember when like a milkman used to be a profession, and then, like and you just would they
Like you
would
would
drop
just
off
have
the
a
milk
house.
and
Yeah.
and they'd have a house and a yard and everything. It's like somebody used to just be like they just would paint maps for movies, and that would be their job.
Mhm.
And I salute them because whoever did part of that production design for this, it's insane.
I
It's in
mean, David Fincher got to start doing those,
yes,
you know.
Yeah.
No, it's yeah. I mean, that sense of artifice. I mean, among the many things we've lost, we've lost an embrace of that kind of artifice. And yes,
Hmm.
back then, some of these miniatures probably looked less like miniatures, and probably people were a little more convinced, whatever. But that sense of like you can watch it now and you're still transported. Black Narcissus, like I don't think there's a single frame of Black Narcissus that was shot in India, and yet the movie
No.
is totally transporting.
I'm still
Um,
transported by like the original King Kong. Like
yeah,
that still gets me fully.
yeah, and like yeah, and I'm a big fan of like shooting on location and stuff like that. But this sense of like you don't have to go for just this like weird authenticity every time. Like that can be great, right? That can work in the right context. But you can also embrace like creativity the way the Archers is. I mean, that's I think in so many ways the key to their to the magic of the Archers is that I mean they were great technicians, right? Don't get me wrong. They
Hmm.
had incredible I mean they had incredible craftsmen working for them. But there was such a joy in their use of craft and technique and trickery, right? There was never a sense of like, we're doing this to really kind of convince you that it's real. It was like, we're doing this because it's awesome, right?
yeah,
I mean, another one of my favorite transitions in this film is, when he's going through the book of photos, right? And then suddenly the pages are blank, right? And that's how we know that his wife has died. Um, I mean, what a simple idea,
yeah,
I mean,
Pressburger's a really good writer too. Like
Pressburger's a
yeah,
really good
don't
writer.
don't forget about
No,
yeah.
of
Pressburger.
course not. But
That guy's putting it on the page, man.
oh yeah, yeah, no, he absolutely. But there's this great line attributed to Thomas Huxley about when he first learned about Darwin's theory of evolution. And the line is, how absolutely stupid not to have thought of that. Like every time I watch a Pressburger movie or Powell Pressburger movie, it's like, oh God, oh fuck, you could have done that. Like, yes, like every time they do something, it's like it's beautiful, it's clever, it's inventive, and it's also so simple. Like it's also like, oh yes, of course, a person died, and now the pages of the photo album are blank.
Yeah,
Like how absolutely stupid not to have
It
thought of that.
is
Like,
it is a movie that in many ways believes in the individual but rejects sort of the history of Great Britain, which I think is fascinating, especially in 1942, 1943. Do you know who they wanted to be Candy originally?
Olivier, right?
Olivia, right?
Olivier, and then they wouldn't let him out of military service. They were like, "This is not
Well,
pro-Indian
I don't
enough."
think if they were going to give him the funding, they weren't going to let him do that. But that would have actually been
No,
very,
no, they would not let him
yeah,
out of military service. It was like
yeah,
you got to
yeah,
keep serving.
The
Yeah.
thing I wonder about is how much
that would have been really
the
good.
Colonel Blimp imagery was there when they wanted Olivier,
Right.
because I am trying to imagine Lars Olivier in that like a
With
bald
the big
cap.
mustache.
Like
The
it's just not happening for
the
me.
big
Olivier
gut,
was
like a
so
little bit of a gut, like
Olivier.
almost like a ball,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, it would have been fascinating to watch him do that, especially, early in his career like
Yeah,
that.
he'd been
But it's
really
like
young.
Roger Livesey is so perfect for
Yeah.
that part,
He
and for the
is.
He's so perfect
transportation.
for it, and he feels literally like a general. It does
Yeah.
feel a little bit like Jay, you're mentioning Churchill earlier. It does feel like a little bit of like a slap at institutional men trapped within because I mean Churchill was nothing if not a loyal servant to his country and the crown and vital in the war. But nonetheless, he's I can understand why he would get mad, maybe at looking at,
I don't.
maybe calling himself out though a little bit by getting mad,
Well,
probably like a little
that's
bit.
kind of what it is. It's kind of like a self-own
Yeah,
rather
you
than
just owed
the
yourself, like,
feeling I get. I don't get a huge Churchill vibe from Candy in this
no, I think
movie.
there is something about like, well, Churchill was always finding a way to get back inside that government and getting into, but he was very loyal, very much a servant to his country, and there's that aspect of
Extraordinarily
it.
pro-British,
Yeah, exactly, and what I mean, and Candy is as well. I mean, he's
Candy gets a little plump. Some
yeah,
people are
exactly.
making fun of, you
Exactly.
know.
So he enjoys a meal by the end of the film. Let's just say that. But I also think too, like, there is something. Bilga, you mentioned Deborah Carr earlier, who I
Mhm.
think is just, I mean, the most vital part of this movie in connecting these two men's lives and playing these, like you said, these sort of very distinct, very original and specific characters for each time.
Mhm.
And it there's gotta be, in my opinion, and what opened up for me about her is she's the evolution of the future of this
Mhm.
country, of
Yeah.
going from a
Well,
nurse,
she's sort of the constant,
and
is
the
what she
constant,
is.
and no, but
She represents
she's
the
the
thing
thing in
that
the
isn't
background
changing
that,
while everything else is changing.
exactly. No, I do think though that there's, while there is a constant there, Jay, I do think that there is, the role of this person changes over time. And for me, it goes from just being someone in the war, and then post-war is back in the home, stable, arm candy. But then when the war starts again, there's a rise above her station again, and she's used, and her characters are used to reflect the necessity of women, of people in their country, more so than even Candy, because he's the constant throughout it. His thought ideology, his thought process, and everything is not changing, and we can see the
Well, he
adaptability through
refuses.
Carr's
Yeah, he
characters, three
gets
characters
demoted.
throughout.
He gets forced to retire because he doesn't. Can I tell you something about Deborah Kerr too?
Yes.
Sure.
Very pretty.
Oh, she's an you.
She's very pretty.
Good
She's an
looking gal.
important person for you.
She's important. She's
She's
very
important.
pretty.
Bilgo, on this
I,
show, when we talk about people that we have crushes with, out of respect to them, we say that they're important people to
very
us.
important. Very important.
So I don't know
She's
if
very
Deborah Carr
important.
is an important person for you or
I,
not.
I very briefly dated someone in college who was like a dead ringer for Deborah Kerr, and
My goodness.
There you go.
Damn it.
And then when you were in the movie
Screwed that
theater
one up.
watching it post
Yeah.
college, you were like, "Oh my God, there!"
Oh, I made a horrible
Deborah
mistake.
Ebiri
I made a horrible
could have
mistake.
been.
No, I love my wife.
It's
I'm
okay.
very
We're all
happy
married
about-
here.
I'm
We're
very
all
happy
married
about-
here. No one's getting
Uh,
in trouble.
But no,
You know?
I just wanted to say one thing though about her character. I mean, her character is it's a different character each time. Like as I mentioned it, and she does
Mhm.
play it differently, and the character does develop. But there is also this real sense, and this is common in art. But like the idea of the country being represented by an almost unattainable female figure, you know? I mean, that's, classic, motherland stuff. Um, but it is, but yeah, but they make her, they make her so vivid. Each of those characters really comes to life. So while they become symbols, because the nature of the narrative is that they are symbols for Clive Candy to a certain extent, each of them is so alive and so vivid as a character that that element sneaks up on you. You don't really think of that necessarily while watching the film, certainly watching the film the first time, but that element really sort of, it underlies everything, but you're also just like swept up with just the drama and the emotions of, of these characters.
Well, I just think that, somebody like when you meet Edith, she's the one really that has pushed this drama to get Clyde there, and push this narrative, and through that finding his purpose. And then there's that there's those scenes of when he comes home from, she's gone to be with Theo, and he's gone and dated the sister or whatever, for the night, and it's just wasn't the same. And then that's when the game has to come, like on the, to fix the itch of that longing or that lost love.
Hmm.
And then his wife it is different. She's not in the service. She's sort of idyllic.
Hmm.
And yet there is still like weirdly a disconnect between them, even though that there is admiration for him. Like to me, I was watching, I was like, he's it's that conversation he has with Theo where he's like, doesn't it kind of look like her? It's like, you didn't, basically, doesn't she look like your wife that I had, like I had my first love for, and I basically gave you as a consolation prize from our fight? It's such a backhanded way that conversation happens, but Theo takes it very well. But
But also, I mean, what Theo says there is so beautiful and so well observed. Not a lot of films have that delicacy when he says, "Yeah, I can kind of see the resemblance, but you have to remember, we grew old together. I saw her 30 years after you did." That's such a great insight. Like that's
mhm.
Yeah, it's
not the
really good.
kind of thing that you hear in a movie, even now, like it's so beautifully done. And the other
He
thing
has a
about
vision of her, and he has the
yeah,
reality. Yeah.
and related to that, when he sees, I mean, he actually, I think it's in that scene that he admits it. Uh, was it that scene? I think it's in that scene that he admits it, that, when he says, I was always in love with her.
It's like right
And
before that scene when they're
yeah,
sitting down and eating. Yeah.
yeah. And Theo's like, you were in love with her, but I told you were so happy. He's like, yes, I was. I didn't realize until
I didn't
I
know
was
it
in
until
love with her,
later.
until it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, she's never really existed for him. Like, not she. Each of these characters exists and is real, but that thing that he's in love with, that ideal, has never really existed for him. It was this, it's like, the persistence of vision, the idea that like an image stays in your head like a split second after it goes away, which is
And
like what cinema is
She's
founded
an
on,
idea,
right?
idea of a person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and,
the
and so
idea
like
also,
so
like in the third generation, being like literally there the whole time, and he's just like discarding it as well too,
yeah, but like
is
but
very
like
funny.
this idea that kind of appears in his head after she leaves in the first section of the movie, or in the first act of the movie. That's the idea that he falls in love with, and then he kind of pursues that throughout, and then he
Hmm.
shows it to Theo, and Theo's like, sort of like not quite,
But then because she
she's a person,
dies, she will remain his ideal
yeah.
Yeah,
because
and
he never really knew.
it's such a great compliment to not just their idea of love, but these two men's ideas on the world and their countries. And really reflecting
Yeah.
those, I think, as well. I mean, talking about a guy that's still romanticizing the past and the glories, and he keeps mentioning like, what is it, 13? Like, I keeps remembering his glory days and glory days and glory days. And everyone's just like,
or
yeah,
or, or,
the
or
problems are goddamn different, dude. Like, I don't want to
but
hear a
also the
BBC
fact that he and
broadcast
his
about it. You know,
but also the fact that he and his wife were always traveling, right? They were always
Hmm.
abroad, right? And there's no sense that they ever really even wanted to start a family. Like they just always wanted to
Yeah.
travel. And
No
that
kids.
great line,
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact line, but he's like, if she didn't die in another country. She died in Jamaica,
Yeah, that is so good.
but
Yeah.
it's so perfect. Like it's so perfect for him. Um,
And that's the thing about this. This was made during World War II, and it's like England kind of has sucked historically. It's crazy that they made this movie when they did.
it
It's
really is.
remarkable.
It really is because I
And you know
mean,
who gave him the idea for the movie?
who, Jay?
More or less,
Who?
it was David Lean.
Well, there you go.
oh, really?
Yeah, they made a movie before this called One of Our Aircraft is Missing, which is sort of like a worse version of 49th Parallel. It's not that good, in my opinion. And there's a line in there about like aging. And
Mm.
David Lean was basically like, this idea that you have captured should be an entire movie.
Mm. And
Hmm.
David Lean
And
edited 49th Parallel, if I
yep,
remember correctly, right?
yep,
Yes, he
Yeah.
did.
yep. They
Yes, he
were
did.
very much involved in sort of the wartime films, and David Lean, loved David Lean.
Who doesn't
Brief
love
Encounter would
David
have
Lean?
been a couple years after this.
David
Yes.
Lean.
Yeah.
That
David Lean, one of the greats.
Is
that
Brief
cat sure had
Encounter
some
David
moves on
Lean's
him,
best
didn't
movie?
What, Jay?
I
Brief
think Brief
Encounter?
Encounter might be the best David Lean movie.
I mean, it's up there, you know.
Lawrence of Arabia is quite a good film.
There's this movie
Lawrence
called
of Arabia is good.
yeah,
I
Lauren,
mean, Bridge on the River Kwai,
it's good.
solid picture.
Solid pick.
Uh,
Solid picture. Yeah.
solid picture.
Let me just be clear. Acclaimed critic Bilge Ebiri has declared Lawrence of Arabia good.
Good.
Hey now, Lawrence of Arabia is a movie about them fighting my people. So, you know, that actually is you know, I mean, I Lawrence of Arabia is beloved in Turkey too, but we do also have our own version of Lawrence of Arabia in which the Turkish spy is fighting Lawrence of Arabia.
Okay.
Kind of
Interesting.
want.
What is that movie
Uh,
called?
well, the Turkish title is İngiliz Kemal Casus Lawrence'a karşı, and so translates as uh, Kemal of England versus the spy Lawrence.
I kind of want to watch that movie now. That sounds really good.
Is it good
It
and
might
can I
actually be
watch
on
it?
YouTube. I've never seen it. But my dad would tell me about this movie. It's entirely possible it's on YouTube because almost everything is on. By the way, a lot of the stuff I did for I mean the films that I watched for my Wuthering Heights thing, I watched many of them off like DVDs and stuff I bought for a lot of money on eBay, but I later discovered that like basically all of them are on YouTube. Um, with like, you know, machine translated subtitles in some cases. Hang on, let me
But
see.
you're
I want
proud
to
to
see.
have that stack of DVDs of Wuthering Heights because, you
English
know,
Kemal Lawrence Akarsha, 1952. There it is.
there it is.
There it is. 1 hour, 35 minutes.
Hey, hour 35? That's like
Yeah,
two Lawrence of Arabias.
that is like
You know?
that's actually more than two Lawrence Arabias.
Yeah.
Bilge, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
We watched the Chantal Ackerman film A Couch in New York. Not sure
Mm.
if you've seen that one.
Oh yeah, yeah. Huh?
Not available anywhere except YouTube, and it didn't have subtitles. And we kind of committed to it and had to review it with
The
30%
episode's
of the
already out, so we
movie
can, yeah.
incomprehensible to us.
Yeah.
I saw that movie in Turkey actually.
Okay.
Wow.
I remember I was in Turkey
5 stars?
one summer, and not 5 stars, but I remember I was in Turkey one summer. I think it was a summer, and I was like, "What the hell is this movie?"
You know
That
what?
is that is
That
kind
is
of a
exactly what we said on the
reasonable
review.
response to that
That's
movie. Yeah.
that's very, very true. Um,
Yeah.
guys, is there anything else you guys want to mention? I mean, we could talk about this movie for another 2 hours. I don't think you can get really bored by it.
The good movies you can always talk about for hours and hours. That's kind of
The bad ones too.
of the-
Like I think
I mean, this is
it's
true, some of them.
it's the one. Isn't it always true, Boga, that the reviews that are the easiest to write, so the bad ones and the great ones, and then the ones that are in the middle are the ones that writers struggle with the most. Like the C plus B minus is a hard thing for people for most writers to crack. I'm not talking about yourself.
To
I'm
that
just
right now.
yeah, because Jay's actually
I-
you're becoming a very good writer when it comes to that, Jay.
I mean, Bilge has been one of my favorite writers for a long time. I wrote a review for the newest Pixar movie, Hoppers.
Mm.
And then I read Bilge's review, which I believe the byline for that was like, Pixar is running out of ideas and that's okay. And I really liked it. And I was like, what did I miss?
Oh no, I should.
What did-
a
what
lot
did
of
I-
people,
what
a lot
did
of
I
people
miss?
like it. No, it's. I watched it with my son. He enjoyed it. It's a perfectly enjoyable movie. I had, you know, there were things about it I wish were
Oh,
better.
he liked it.
It was one of
Wait,
the.
Bilge,
I have-
your
I have
son, your
seen-
your son liked the film.
Oh yeah,
Hoppers.
yeah, my son,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I saw it with my
I can't wait to
3-year-old.
read his review to kind of counter
is
yours.
the- That is the third movie I have seen with my son, and he was really into it, which certainly shaped it to a certain extent. But I
yeah.
did think it was really good. And then I read Bilge's review, and I was like, you know what? Maybe it's not as good as I thought.
Well, maybe
Oh no, don't first of all, thank you for the nice things you said about my writing. But you know, I will read your review because I did, you know, like I mostly enjoyed it. But where was I going with this? Oh, you were asking about what kind of reviews are the easiest to write.
well, the
You know,
hardest.
or the hardest. It's weird. I None of them are easy to write.
No,
I
Writing
find
is a painful process.
I
it's
mean, writing
hard.
is joyful, and I love doing it, and I hate doing it, and it's agony. But but yeah, I mean, in some ways, the hardest ones to write are the praise reviews, or the raves, but not because they're like hard to write. It's because you can find yourself slipping into like marketing speak so
Yeah,
easily.
you're
You
just like, what a
read
Hmm.
and rave
bombastic, beautiful
One
masterpiece.
of my least favorite criticisms is who is this movie for?
I hate that criticism.
Hate it.
Yeah,
I do not, and I probably use that criticism sometimes, but I always think to myself, I'm like, you're
Whoever
not,
likes it is who the
yeah,
movie's
I
for.
mean, somebody watches it and they like it, the
Yeah.
movie's for them, Like, I don't like that's a,
every movie's got to have a fan out there.
but also the who is this movie for? You can turn that criticism on a lot of great films. And
Yeah,
I
Sure.
remember a lot of people saying that. I don't know if any reviews said it, but I remember people saying that for Babe, Pig in the City, um, which is a great movie. But
great
it is
movie.
very much a who is this movie for? Because it's like all the kids who want to see the Babe sequel are like traumatized by it. But like the adults don't really want to see a Babe sequel, and then it's like that's like Road Warrior stuff in it. But it's a great movie.
It's
Like
good
that
stuff.
movie is for whoever watches it and likes it. Yeah, I don't like that criticism at all. And I sometimes find my colleagues saying who is this movie for, and I'm just like, you know, it's
I
for
think I
whoever.
think that
That's a marketing thing, not a critical thing.
Yeah,
no, I think
exactly.
you have to just judge the film and it on its what it is,
Yeah,
and if it doesn't work for you, that's the main takeaway is that like it
yeah,
just didn't work for you. You don't have to put in there, oh well, if it doesn't work for me, that's it's just
yeah.
known. You know what I mean?
Bilge,
These are
do you
these are
have a general
opinions.
like process? Like for me, it's like I sit in front of a blank computer screen for 90 minutes and then I find an angle and then it flows.
My process changes from time to time. It's just over the years I've written so many things that I will eventually exhaust any process I have because I used to have. I mean, I've had so many different processes over the years. Currently, the last couple of years, I've been in this mindset. I don't know what to call it, but it's like I can't. I hate this current process I'm in. Like none of these processes happen intentionally. They just kind of I just settle into this process, and I'm like, oh, I guess this is how I'm writing now. Um, but I have to have the first sentence before I can write the rest of it, and it's killing me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it can be tough. And the other thing is, I mean, with reviews, especially, I mean, there are a lot of movies, and as a result, there are a lot of reviews that one writes, and you have certain ways of starting reviews, and I just started like 10 other reviews this way. It's like I can start with a quote and
Oh,
then kind of
that is
build my way, and I'm
so
like,
hard.
oh,
Yeah.
but one of my favorite critics is Andrew Sarris, and I love reading old Andrew
Hmm.
Sarris reviews. And Andrew Sarris, wrote for the Village Voice for many years, and I don't think he had this for the whole time, but for part of the time that he wrote for The Voice, all his all his reviews began the same way. They began with the same 4 or 5 words, which was basically name of director apostrophe S, title of movie. So, Jean Renoir's Rules of the Game is blah blah blah blah blah, or Sam Peckinpah's Straw Dogs, blah blah blah blah. Like he would always start with that. And now this is probably on some level ideological for him because
He would have been great at Twitter.
it would have been great at Twitter, but he was obviously, the auteur theory guy. So
Yeah.
ideologically, this made perfect sense for him to start the reviews that way. But also in a weird way, it must have been so liberating because it's like you don't have to worry about the opening sentence because this is how you start every single
Right.
review, and that's kind of how you get into the review. Sometimes I wish I had some kind of rubric like that I could just stick to and be like, all right, this is how every review is going to start, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. But 5 years ago, I had a different process. Sometimes I went through a period where I had to start every review, and very often it would happen because I was coming back on the subway from a screening, but like I'd be sitting on the subway and I'd start tapping out my thoughts on my phone. Um, and that was kind of liberating because on the phone it doesn't feel so much like a blank page. You're just like tapping out ideas. And then you do that for half an hour, and by the time you get home, you've got like 500, 600 words, and suddenly it's much easier to shape that into a review. My biggest challenge with the reviews is that I don't know what I'm going to say until the movie's over, you know? Like, I mean, my that seems obvious, but like as a result, I find myself, you know, when I'm taking notes, I write down everything I see or hear.
Yes.
Like I write down, I just,
Yes.
I mean, I
Right.
take pages and pages of notes. I write down everything because I don't know what I'm going to say necessarily while I'm watching the movie. So it was only afterwards when I'm
It's
like,
a great
okay, did I
reference
enjoy
point
that?
back, especially
Right.
I
when you're
find
at
that
like
my notes are
festivals,
largely my notes are just like plot, and that's bad.
A lot of it's plot, a lot of it's like
Yeah.
dialogue, you know. I mean, I hate having to take notes, but I do it. Um, and but then I'll see like, you know, I would see like veteran critics. And it's funny because I'm a veteran critic at this point, but I would see people who I would think of as veteran critics, and they'd be like they'd write like three things down. And I'm like, man, to come to
and then
that
they
level.
The
get two
more
thousand words out, and you're just like, how the
generally
Right.
hell did you do
generally the
that?
more
And
I
then they
like
get
the movie,
yeah, and then
the less notes I have. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, well, there is that.
There was
But
one time
there's
I was writing, I was going to write a review. I think I was writing it for Furiosa. And Eric, if you're listening to this, sorry, but the review turned out great, and I got so invested in the movie. At the three-fourths mark, I stopped writing.
hmm,
And so I went back to my notes and I'm like, wait a minute, where's like the last fourth of this movie? And then I started remembering it back in my head
It's a
because
pretty
I was like,
plot dense
and
movie.
I was just thinking to myself, I was like, oh, that's right. I got so invested back into the wasteland
yeah.
that I forgot to write down any thoughts I had or quotes and things like that or whatnot. It's the first time that's ever happened to me ever.
And that movie has a gnarly final like
Yeah,
30 minutes.
it really does. And
Yeah.
so, well, I wrote the review. I was very happy with it. And then I saw the film, I think again, like a week and a half later, I took my wife and it's like, I don't know if you ever have this, Boga, but I finished it. I was like, okay, I need to go back and read what I wrote to make sure that I didn't sound like an idiot when I wrote that. And sure, and it was fine. But like, because like I couldn't believe that and sometimes even films that I'm not reviewing, I'll do notes for. And it happened again this past year. I wasn't writing the review for Weapons, but I was going to take notes
Mhm.
for because we were going to do a podcast about it. And I think at the part when Alden Ehrenreich pulls up to the house with Austin Abrams in the back is when I stopped writing notes. And everything after that is just like me leaning, that like meme of somebody in the chair leaning forward, you know, in different, you know, degrees. That was me by the end of that film. So it's happened twice. What I'm saying is that Warner Brothers makes movies that get you to really invest in them. And I
And they're
don't
going to
know,
keep doing
and
that
they're going to keep
It-
doing
under
it.
the Ellison
yeah,
regime.
exactly.
Exactly.
I can't
Exactly.
wait.
You know, it's funny. I you mentioning that I used to, you know, I would take notes, but then last 30, 40 minutes of the movie, I would stop taking notes because I was like, well, you know, it's like I'm not really gonna really mention anything that happens at the end because, you know, you don't want to be giving away
It all
any
about be about your feelings about it anyway, you know.
yeah, but also like because I don't, you know, I'm not a big I don't care about spoilers personally, and I kind of get annoyed when people get too worked up over spoilers. But there's also a part of me that's like, you know, I don't need to write down what's happening in the last 30 minutes. But over the past few years, you know, we've done so many pieces that are about like the endings of movies, like
Yes.
ending explained kind of films, kind of
Yeah.
pieces. And of course, the piece itself is not just about the ending. The piece itself can get into all sorts of things, but you know, the URL is ending explained because for some reason everybody looks for that shit on Google. Um, but now it's become such a thing to like write about the endings of the films, and now I'm like, oh gosh, I really have to pay attention to the ending now. Like write down everything I see. Um, and I remember Furiosa. You know, I saw Furiosa because it was playing at Cannes, and I was covering the Cannes Film Festival, but they screened it right before the festival in New York. I went and
Yeah.
saw it. I wrote my review, but then there were multiple pieces I wanted to do about the ending and also about a couple other things. And I was in Cannes. The film had premiered at Cannes. I didn't go to the premiere at the festival, but it was after, like, it premiered at Cannes on the weekend of its opening. So it was in theaters. So I went to the local multiplex in Cannes to see it so I could take notes on the ending and write my ending piece. And of course, turns out I had bought tickets to a French language screening of the film. And I was like, oh, great. And I actually stayed and watched, because I was like, whatever, I still want to enjoy the movie and I know what happened, so I can at least experience it again. And then, of course, the next night I came back and watched the subtitled version. So somehow, like during this festival, I managed to see Furiosa two more times. But it was all kind of, oh God, I got to write these pieces and I got to make sure I, get the stuff in, and take copious notes on what actually is happening at the end of Furiosa, because there is a lot of crazy shit happening at the end of that movie.
I think the first time when I first started out years ago writing, I didn't take notes. I didn't take a lot of
Neither did
notes.
I. Yeah.
And then uh, again, shout out Eric. He said, "Are you an idiot? Take notes." And he goes, "Your reviews are good, but I think if you took notes, I think they could be even better." Now I'm like, I have specific notebooks that I buy from Target, and I
Mhm.
have specific pens that I buy because they don't bleed through the pages. And it's yeah, these are like $8, and I have like a stack of them, and I'm just like I can't imagine not having them, even when I'm writing about things. Like I've done some for this show, like and I think it's so important,
I take like 3 pages of
and I
notes for every movie we cover that I
it's
barely reference.
It's very funny though, because like when I'm out at in Bilga, you probably see this too when we're at festivals. It is very interesting to see like the people that do write the notes and don't write the notes, and then I read their reviews, and the ones that don't, that are like, I'm actually like very impressed that they can. I mean, it can go either way in
You
both
can do it either
categories,
way. Yeah, for sure.
if you take notes, I mean, like what are you taking notes of? I mean, everybody's different. And so it's such a fascinating process. Like I love everyone when everyone's, how big their notebooks are or how they're taking them. And it's pretty
And you know
great.
who's good at it? Bilge.
Bilga.
You're good
I
at it,
will
man.
I will
You're good
tell
at
I
that
will
too.
tell you this. There it is. There's the
Yeah.
notebook right there.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. I had a great note-taking experience one time. I was at South by Southwest, and I was writing notes as we were watching The Fall Guy,
Ah.
a movie that I liked at the time, and then I watched at home, and then I realized, oh man, I really got caught up in the festival hype. This is not as good as I thought it was. It
Oh,
was.
you're wrong. That's one of the best movies of the last few years.
No, it's
I've
it's
seen that movie many, many times. I
it's a
love it.
fun movie. I think I would probably drop the grade from a little bit because I hadn't seen a good movie in 2 days, and then I thought a good one, not a great one, and I think I
South by
elevated it.
Bump.
It happens a little bit sometimes when you haven't seen like something entertaining or good. But I was taking notes, and I was writing notes on the scene and everything, and I was watching, and then I just looked to my left, and we were at South by, and if anybody's ever been to South by, the big major premieres are in the Paramount Theater, and if you sit below on the right side, you have a chance to sit across the aisle from people, and I just did was not paying attention because I was doing other things and writing other stuff, and um, I realized that Ryan Gosling was sitting on the other side of me. Like if I looked to my left, the other side of that aisle right there, he was right
Mm-hmm.
there. And when I looked, he looked right at me, and he did like a writing like thing, and he put a thumbs up, like, is it up, down, good? And I went and I gave him a thumbs up, and he went, fuck yeah. Like you're like one of those like hell yeah with your
Mm-hmm.
arm.
That's a full letter grade that he
Yeah.
got when he
Yeah,
did
so
that
he
to
got
you.
he might have gotten the bum for that, you know what I mean, just because of Gosling, because he's a badass. But um reason to take notes. You never know if Ryan Gosling's ever gonna notice you. So, and what a great guy to notice you. Um, Jay,
Yeah, man.
we've had a good talk tonight. It's been a good talk.
Oh yeah, it's been great.
But before we get out of here, We're going to test your award season knowledge based on the film we just reviewed, The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. In a segment we like to call It's an Honor to Get Nominated. Now, Jay, this gets tricky. And I'm going to ask you
Okay. Interesting.
which one you prefer to do. Because The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp was made in 1943 and released in the UK in 1943.
Released in the UK, correct?
It was released in 1945 in the United States. By the way, absolutely massacred this cut. It was in black and white. They cut it down to 90 minutes when they released it in the United States.
They Weinsteined it.
They did. Absolutely, they did. And so on the basis of that alone, I don't want to.
Let's do the British release.
Thank you very much. So that would, of course, be the year of 19. That would be the Oscars of 44 for the films of 1943. Was The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp nominated for any Academy Awards? And if so,
can I tell you what the choice you just gave me implies that it was not nominated for any Oscars.
I'm just saying, you never know. Well, I mean, yes,
British. It was too British at the time.
That is correct.
It's one of the most British movies ever made.
That is correct. It was not nominated either year. But Jay, can you tell me the film? Bill, you will know this, but don't help him.
This is 19. These are the films of 1943.
The films of 1943
in 1944.
1944. What was the film that won Best Picture? Don't look it up.
I'm not.
In 1943 or 45?
The films of 1943.
Oh, okay.
The ceremony's in 44 because the ceremony is always the next year. So, what won Best Picture for the films of 1943?
1940.
Because actually, I think it's a quite interesting mirror of.
Is that when Casablanca came?
That is correct, Jay. It was Casablanca.
Great work by me.
Very interesting that Casablanca is made the same time as this film.
That was one of the movies that I watched in Film 101.
Did you really?
Yeah, Casablanca.
I didn't take a Film 101 course. I didn't have to.
Kane.
I'm just kidding.
Casablanca, great movie. Like, absolutely holds.
I mean, I watch it every year. The day of the Oscars, I watch it in the morning.
Really?
Yeah, it's a tradition of mine. I started it in like middle school because I think it's one of the great. It's maybe the greatest screenplay ever written. One of the greatest screenplays ever written.
That is one of your favorite movies.
It's just like when I think of the Oscars, like that whole thing, I think of Casablanca. Like that's just as perfect of a film.
It's kind of just one of the movies.
It's just like that.
It feels like the movie.
Yeah.
And so when I've been cooking on that day, for the evening, or I'm, getting in the mood for it, I don't give a crap about red carpet. So I put on a classic film, and Casablanca's, I think, always been the right choice. And
I'm trying to see what Rebecca Ferguson is wearing.
No.
Is she going to be there this year?
Well, yeah, she's going to be there for Mercy, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The Chris Pratt movie?
You didn't see it, Bilge?
I did not see it.
They didn't make you review that?
I got to check it
No,
out.
it was it was like right around the time of Sundance or Berlin or something. Like I think I had some convenient excuse for not seeing.
Okay, well then you and I, when we see each other sometime this year, we'll watch it together. It's on Amazon Prime, so you can watch it right now.
I wanted to say something about Life and Death of the cut version. I have one of the cut versions.
Do you
on
really?
DVD, and I don't remember. I think I watched it once. And I have it because I don't remember anything about it. At that point, I'd obviously seen the full version, so I think I knew it was cut, and I was like, oh, interesting that they.
It's like a reverse Lord of the Rings.
But I'm trying to remember. The reason I have it though is because it's a DVD. It's a UK DVD, interestingly enough, that has two movies on it. Two Powell Pressburger movies on it. And I can't remember what the other one was. I think it might be Edge of the World, which is not Pressburger movie. It's actually, Michael Powell on his own.
That's a
I
pure
think
Powell.
I
Yeah.
think it might have been The Edge of the World. Like I got it because I wanted the other movie, but it also had Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. And I have it somewhere in a box somewhere. But I do need to like resurrect it one day and
Well, the
watch it.
runtime mafia would have loved the idea of cutting a 2 hour and 40 minute masterpiece down to 90 minutes. You know
Okay,
what I mean?
so let's
So you, by the
unpack.
way, are not part of the a movie is only good at like 90 minutes or an hour 40. You know what I
I
mean?
am not one of those people, but
Okay.
I do think that
Movies
Roger
are too
Ebert.
long.
No, I do think that Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel are responsible for one of the great lies of film history, which is no good movie
No good
is
movies.
too long, no bad movie is too short, which is like
Interesting.
there are good movies that are a little too long. Like um and yeah, like I
Cure
don't
for
like I
wellness.
yeah, I mean I don't buy that theory, although I'm not a I mean look, some of my favorite films are 5 hours long. I will say though, sometimes, and this happens more often than one would think. I mean, one thing that I've noticed is sometimes a movie will feel too long, but what it actually needs to be is longer. Like I'll watch a film and it feels like it's been cut down and sort of reduced to sort of choppiness. So you're watching it and you sort of lose interest because the scenes are not quite flowing together. And I'll think to myself, oh, actually, I want to see the longer version of this. And the movie might be like 2.5 hours long, and feel like it's dragging, and I'll start thinking, oh, like there's like a 3-4 hour version of this movie that probably makes a lot more sense.
You either cut out a part or you flesh out a part, kind of.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember what like there I saw something recently that I had this response to, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
In
Um,
the meantime, we talked to
mhm.
Casablanca. Who on this episode right now thinks that Colonel Blimp is better than Casablanca?
Don't do that. Don't do
I
that,
do,
Jay.
I
I
do.
think it's better than Casablanca.
I think it's better than Casablanca, but I love Casablanca.
I
To be
love
clear,
Casablanca as
I
well.
adore Casablanca.
You guys
Yeah.
can't make me do that. Jay,
I know you.
that's a direct
Casablanca is
shot.
like that's like one of your five favorite movies ever.
Look,
It's in like my top 20, 30. I mean, there's
Casablanca
something
is
so undeniable about that
it's a
movie.
banger. It is an
Yeah.
absolute banger.
It
A
is.
couple of years ago, uh, IFC Center in New York was screening Casablanca again for a week, and it was at the same time Film Forum was screening a new cut, a new restoration of The Third Man, and I
Mm,
went and saw both of them,
what
back
a
to back,
double feature.
and it was like, oh man, like
There's something about
we
hearing, them singing the French national anthem in that scene and that act of defiance. There's something about hearing that in a theater as opposed to hearing that at home and hearing those them just sing at a time in which, yes, we're still in the war, and at a time where it's like we need actually a little bit of defiance here. I mean, we can't just let them take it.
And what's funny is Michael Curtiz, who directed Casablanca,
Mhm.
Such an interesting director.
does this, does did something very similar in Dodge City,
Hmm.
which he made several years before that, and which is set, which is a Western, set in Dodge City, you know, um, and the and it has a whole scene where former Confederate soldiers and former Union soldiers are in a bar and they're singing, one side is singing Dixie and the other side is singing something else. Like Michael Curtiz had done that before. Like it was a move that he'd done before in a movie. Um, no, that scene's great. I mean, watching Casablanca with an audience is such a great experience because that film just straight up works. And
There's
the
like,
story about how they make it, was a complete chaos. I mean, it's like Jaws. It's one of those things like I have no idea how they snatched, victory from the jaws of defeat.
it's
Uh,
it's like when you read Kyle Buchanan's book and as you're reading it about Fury Road, you're just like, how did they not kill each other? How is everybody not dead? Like, how are they not
yeah.
still in the desert, still trying to find a way to make that film? Like, how did they? how
Yeah.
did anybody greenlit the prequel? Like, you
Well,
know what I
that,
mean? Like,
that was
you
the
hear
thing
about those
Soderbergh
great,
said, right?
yeah. Like, how do you make like Soderbergh talked about that with with a little bit with his Ocean's films too. Like, those are the hardest films he ever had to make,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there's
Well, his
and
whole
it's a
thing was like, I
miracle that
don't
they
know how they
work.
made Fury Road, and I don't know how 25 people didn't die
Yeah,
Or he
making
and I
it.
said
don't know how
something
they
like
made Jaws. Like,
he said he's like there are two things that he thinks about with Fury Road is like how are they still not shooting and how are hundreds
Yeah.
of people not
Yeah.
dead?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he literally
Exactly.
says hundreds of people, which I
hundreds of
think is so
The
people.
great.
I think my favorite assignment I had in, and I don't have a film degree. I took a couple film classes, but the my favorite one that I had in college was we had to rescore Casablanca.
Mm.
And I took like a pop rock approach
God damn it,
to
you would, you
rescoring. Like
would.
I had Radiohead, I had Arctic Monkeys, I had
You did the Cardinal Sin of Cinema, which is put
all
Radiohead in your
sorts
movie.
of all sorts of interesting things. And
Um,
I think videotape in the scene where he's drunk at the bar was kind of
Oh,
the
that's
perfect choice.
okay. All right, good.
um, I found the movie I was thinking of that is actually not a bad movie. It's actually a really good movie that I
Okay,
love, but it was Avatar: Fire and Ash, uh,
okay,
where
You
I
say
remember.
Avatar Fire and Ash was not long
long
enough.
enough.
Yes, no, there was certain parts in Avatar: Fire and Ash where I was like, because like they're like little parts of the film that drag a little
With
bit
the
for my
like the
own.
fire tribe, I think a little
Well,
bit.
there's a couple of parts when I remember thinking to myself, oh, this should have been longer. Like they like I feel like right now things are dragging because they're actually kind of jumping around a
I
little
actually
too
don't
much.
disagree with that.
I do not disagree with that
Yeah, I
at
mean,
all.
I love Fire and Ash, but it is like I'm like, yeah, I mean, I know it's like 3.5 hours long, but I'm like, maybe should have been four.
Release the
No,
4.5 hour cut.
you're so
Come
right,
on.
Bilge, because there are movies every now and then when you know what I thought about. This is actually a really good one. Conclave. I thought
Oh,
about that
interesting.
with Conclave. The last in the book because I read the stupid book before
I
I
read the book
reviewed.
too.
Yeah,
Now I
I
gotta
like the
find
book.
one.
the ending in the book is I felt rushed. And then in the film, I think it's on like three times speed. Like
Hmm.
from the
Interesting.
reveal to like we've had I wish there was a little bit more time with Fiennes' character, the sort of, I think it wraps up too neatly.
Hmm.
And I think that there would be conversations and I think that there would be more like there's a scene where they're all with the Cardinals and they're in the hallway and they're talking about who would take on, and everything. And I think there should have been I mean, it would have been a total Oscar scene, but who cares? Like it's the movie is like literally trying to generate that, where it's
Hmm.
like let them have a conversation about the decision that they've made, and then he can be like, it doesn't matter what decision we made. The future is now in the new Pope's hands, and we move on. Like there, it just I remember seeing that, and when the reveal happened in the film, there was I was at Telluride, and there were like laughs because people were just like, and there were shocks. People didn't
Hmm.
know how to take it. Then he just puts that turtle back in the water, and it's over. And I'm like, wait a minute, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. There's got to be a little bit more here on this, meat on this bone. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like you're leaving fruit on the vine. Is a thing that
Yeah.
I've always said about it, like help me out here,
Hmm.
flesh it out. I think it rushes it a little bit, but uh,
I can see that. I mean, I really love Conclave. I mean, I really like Conclave, but yeah.
it's
I
not like
mean,
it's not a negative thing.
sure.
It's honestly it's a want. Like
I
if
read I read the book after I saw the movie, which is a thing I sometimes do. Like sometimes actually enjoy doing more is reading the book after the movie. But yeah. So at that point, I didn't have much of a thought on whether the ending felt rushed in the book or not. But that's an interesting perspective. Like I can see that. I can
yeah,
totally see that.
I mean like I'll tell Jay and you this too. I didn't feel bored by this movie. I just kind of wanted more. I want it a little bit more, and I still want it more. But it's this selfish person to me. Like I still think that there's more that could have been put in Killers of the Flower Moon. It's a great film, but it's a but when you read that book, there's so much more that could be added to it. And I know that there was the changes and things of that nature, but
That is a problem with Killers of the Flower Moon for me.
yeah,
And it is a film I like a lot, but I actually do think the last hour of that film or last 40, 30 minutes does drag. And I
Mm.
think there's a reason for this. I do think some of it has to do with sort of the weird way they sort of started making it
Yeah.
and made it. But I don't think Leo is that good at playing dumb. And
Oh, interesting.
the last 30, 40 minutes of
That's
that
what he's
movie
been doing
after,
for the last like 7 years.
well, so sorry. It's not that I should clarify. I mean, I think he's fantastic in One Battle After Another. I actually think he's very good at playing dumb, but that particular character is not very
That tempo
interesting.
of dumb. Yeah,
Once she's gone, he is not that interesting to watch. And at
that's
that
fair.
point, that movie actually really needs us to focus on him because he is suddenly at the
Mm.
center of everything in a way that he wasn't before. And there's just not a lot going on. He's just kind of doing the like this thing,
See,
like
yeah, I agree
Viola
with you.
like
And
swallowing the nose thing. And I remember watching that film, and this is a drawback I have with Killers of the, I think I even said this in my review, but and I like the film. I think it's a very good film. Like I would recommend it to
That's
anybody.
one of my favorite movies of the decade.
mhm,
Yeah,
I
but like
adore that movie.
I love it.
but it does like to me the last I do think that there's something in about the final act of that movie that drags for me. And I remember the other thing I kept thinking of was young De Niro could have done this part
Oh man.
and nailed it because young De Niro, like the De Niro of like Mean Streets, like the De Niro playing like
Chip on
kind
his
of
shoulder, De Niro.
chip on his shoulder, but
Yeah,
malevolent, dumb De Niro, like
yeah.
unaware of the amount of damage he's causing De Niro. That was a thing that he was really good
The
at.
like naivete, even in something like King
Yeah,
of
that wasn't
Comedy,
good.
of like
Yeah,
his actions, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, there
And
is,
that's one part. And I loved Leo. I think DiCaprio is a fantastic actor
yeah,
who's given some of the great performances of our time.
that is the
But
hang up with a lot of people is Leo in that movie, though. My
I,
my thing is that while I would have also added more of Lily Gladstone to it, I also think too like there is something interesting about like potentially that third act turning more into the investigation more. And it tries to do that a bit, but it doesn't do it enough. It's like it wants to give you a crumb or two of that. And I don't know. I'm just a, anytime you got Jesse Plemons on the payroll, just give him,
You
let
know
the
what?
guy cook.
You know what my
Plemons
hang up with
is
it
the
is?
man. It's too perfect.
Too good.
Too good.
It's too good.
That's fair.
um,
That's
I
fair.
will say Leo was perfect for the first half of that movie. Like
Yeah.
first parts of that movie, you can absolutely
You know
see
who's
he was
perfect in that
perfect.
film? Robert De Niro.
I figured out which movie I think could use more time.
Okay.
Okay.
Wicked for Good, I think could have used another hour.
You know, Jade, I know you're making a joke, but I actually don't disagree with you on that. I'm not saying that we all want to go and sit there for a 3.5 hour
it's
musical,
such a visually stunning
but
movie.
for the logic of that movie, because it's so illogical and so beholden to the original Wizard of Oz, and they did kind of promise that they were going to flesh things out and they didn't. You're not technically wrong on this one here, buddy. I don't think.
As a Wicked for Good liker, I have to say,
But please tell me that's a joke and not
no,
real.
I like Wicked. I thought I liked the first Wicked. I thought Wicked for Good was better than the first one.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
sorry, guys.
right. That's right. I did read that headline for you. Okay. Okay.
But but and I say this as a John M. Chu liker as well. You know who could have done a really good Wicked movie is fucking Michael Powell.
Oh, man, he would have. It would have been so good.
Oh,
Would have
that's
been
the other
good.
thing I wanted to mention about Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. The references to the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
How fascinating are those references to the Wizard of Oz? Because the Wizard of Oz, the thing people always say about the Wizard of Oz was that it wasn't actually that big a hit when it came out.
Yeah.
And
And that
that it
movie came out
was
what, like 5 years before?
Yeah. 4 or 5 years
yeah,
before.
yeah,
Yeah.
39. It's 39. And you
Yeah.
know, Life and Death of Colonel Blimp is 4 years later. And it's got like the Wizard of Oz songs. It's like yeah, it's a
Yeah.
reference point. Hilariously, in a scene that's taking place well before 1939, if I remember. Oh, actually, no, sorry, it is the 40s because
That was the World War II.
it's the World War II part. So, but
Mhm.
it is funny that like this
It's already caught the attention.
this
Yeah.
iconic movie that today is such a reference point that we were told at that time was kind of a meh release. 4 years later, shows up in this movie.
So
That's
what
another
you're
thing.
saying? So what you're saying, Bilge, is you want to see The Life and Death and Colonel Blimp at the Sphere
What I want to see is the Netflix miniseries, Life and Death of Colonel Blimp,
when they cut it into 6 parts.
in which we see uh Theo's life as they grow old, so that later when he says, you forget I saw her 30 years after you, we grew old together, we actually know what he means, because right now there's no way we can possibly understand what he means.
And
It
it
really needs to be
stars
shown
Jenna
up.
Ortega, and she'll be really good in it.
As a Jenna Ortega liker, I have
I
to
like
say,
Jenna Ortega a
yeah,
lot.
I
I'm
would be
just
okay
talking
with
about
that.
Netflix.
She's already on the payroll. It's
It would
actually
be,
it's Millie Bobby Brown is
yeah,
actually who would
that's the
have
thing. It
That's
would
Millie
be
Bobby
Millie
Brown.
Bobby
That's the
Brown
better
playing
joke.
all
That's
the
the
Yeah,
better
that's
joke.
the better joke.
That's
I love that because I've been literally watching a lot of television. Booga just hit it 1 billion% on the head there. That's exactly how a filler episode of television is, and it is some of the most infuriating thing when you're just like, I could have been told this in a great monologue, and instead it's a fleshed out hour of television nobody asked for.
Are you kidding me? I love when a TV show isn't good until episode 5.
You mean like every show?
But actually, let's bring it back to the Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, because you said something really pertinent here. I mean, Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, obviously they cut it, yes, and that was horrible. But the film we have before us, 2 hours, 45 minutes. So
Mhm.
a long movie, even by the standards of that time.
Yep.
Very long. I mean, this is the era of like fucking Gone with the Wind, right? But
Yeah.
still, a long movie, 2 hours, 45 minutes. And a lot of stuff happens in it, but so much in this movie happens off screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So much is
They
unsaid in
skipped
this
the
movie.
duel.
Shown. They don't show the
There's
fucking
no
duel,
violence
Yeah.
shown throughout
exciting
this film at
incident
all.
of the movie. Like,
Yeah.
so much in this movie is not shown and barely referenced. And yet it's so vivid. Like, everything in the movie
Mhm.
comes to such life. And there you have such a great example of the power of understatement in a movie that's not like subtle in any way, shape, or form, but like it's not a movie that you think of as being understated. But you can see the power of understatement. You can see the power of giving us enough, like placing us in the world of the movie so that our imaginations can run free on the stuff that we're not shown.
Right. We don't
Like,
see the deaths of the women.
no.
It's sort of like, how Steven Spielberg was like, what if a movie was only the good parts and he made Indiana Jones?
Yeah.
Colonel
Yeah.
Blimp is like, what if it was only the undramatic parts?
I mean, we don't see Theo's kids, right?
Yeah.
And yet,
We
how
would
powerful that moment when he
It's about
talks
the
about
That would have been a
ideas
spin-off,
of these
Bilge.
things happening, which make
That would have
them
been a
way
spin-off,
more
yeah.
like it's so much more powerful to be like, how am I going to transplant myself onto those events that are happening or not happening on screen?
No, no, for sure.
It's good storytelling. Also, the movie looks so fucking good.
It looks so
It
good.
really looks so
It
good.
looks
There were
incredible.
many, the other night as I was watching it, there were many points. Again, sitting in my basement in the dark by myself watching it and audibly yelling, "Jesus fucking Christ!"
Yeah, it's
like multiple
crazy.
times. That one shot of Deborah Kerr in the middle section when she's the wife, that like post dinner party when they're just like sitting by the fire and it just there's a cut to her, a close up when she's in half
Forget
in
it.
dark and just like she's got like the jewelry on, and it's just like uh you could, like, if all cinema vanished and all you had left was that shot, you could recreate cinema with that one shot.
Bilge, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us, man. This has
Thank
been
you.
an absolute delight. We hope to have you back on again down the road for
Sure,
another
yeah,
series.
sure.
If
Did
you'd
you
like
enjoy
to,
talking about Powell and Pressburger?
Yeah, I was reluctant at first, and then you guys got me going. I somehow opened up.
It's not, I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, it's not super common to get to talk about Powell and Pressburger.
I mean,
It's fun
Jay
to do.
literally looked up if you've wrote or talked about it before, and now we're going to be, this episode will be part of your canon on Powell and
That's
Pressburger
right.
going
Yeah,
forward.
this is it.
Bilge, can you
It
tell
might even
everybody?
be more popular than your piece from 14
Yeah.
years ago.
Well, that's
Who
one of those
knows?
things where like there are certain filmmakers and films that are such a part of your being, right?
Yeah.
But then if
Yeah.
you haven't written about it, people don't realize that, and
Very
so,
true.
and like, so I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. Not, I mean, I have written about them a couple of times, but like Powell and Pressburger, like, I'm kind of obsessed with them.
Yeah,
Um,
as
They're
but
one as one
profoundly important. They
as
yeah,
profoundly
rule
important
so
as
hard.
one should be. I mean, they
yeah.
absolutely rock. Bilga, can you tell everybody where they can find you and all your work on the internet, as well as also for our listeners, give them a recommendation of the week.
Well, I am, most of my stuff is on vulture.com. That's my day job. I'm a film critic for New York Magazine and vulture.com. 95% of my stuff is there. I also occasionally write for the Criterion Collection and a couple other places, but you go to vulture.com. They're the ones who like pay me and, pay my health insurance and stuff.
There you go.
Um, but recommendations. When does this go up? This goes up this
It
week,
goes
right?
up in 2 days. So
There's a great documentary by Gianfranco Rossi called Beneath the Clouds. It's actually called, I think the revised title is Pompeii Beneath the Clouds. Um, and it's basically all about the city of Naples and about the ruins of Pompeii. Gianfranco Rossi is an Italian filmmaker, Italian documentary filmmaker who makes these films that are often about place, that are often about a place, and so he follows multiple people within a place. So they're not about they're not traditional documentaries in that sense. But that was at Venice last year. I saw it last year. I really loved it. I'm going to be publishing a review of it as well. It's a great movie. Opening in New York. I think it's also opening in LA, but limited release. But it's on Mubi, so it'll be available more widely soon enough.
Jay, same drill.
Yeah. Writing awardswatch.com. Continue to listen to this podcast. Twitter at Mr. J Ledbetter, Letterbox J Ledbetter. And recommendation of the week. How about something a little more widely seen? I bought the 4K for Clueless.
Mm.
My God. What a movie. I mean, just every 45 seconds, there's a line that makes me laugh. And I was shocked. The 4K looks genuinely incredible. I was really impressed by the care that they put into the conversion for that. So get the Clueless 4K.
There you
It's
go.
a wonderful film.
I think it's
Talk
on my
about great
shelf.
color movies.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Again, in that '90s era that you're talking about earlier,
Powell
Bilga, where it's
was he still alive then?
look, you could look it up.
Might have been
Michael
right
Powell?
at the end of his life.
Yeah,
I
right.
think he dies around then, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
He would have loved it if
he would have
didn't
loved
see it.
Clueless if he didn't see it. It's a great film. You can find me
Rest
on
in peace, Michael Powell. You would have loved Clueless.
Clueless. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find all my work here at awardswatch.com. If you like podcasts, we have the main show that's
He
released
was
on Mondays.
unfortunately he had passed
Oh,
by that
sadly.
point.
Thank you.
He never got to see it. He didn't even get to see Silence of the Lambs.
Sad. 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify. We greatly appreciate it if you gave us those reviews. Over on the website, please sign up for the newsletter. It's the best place to get all our news, reviews, interviews, podcasts sent to you all in one place. Recommendation of the week. Sometimes you go over, we all do this. We watch films with family members. We watch films with our parents. Try to watch things. My mom's been trying to catch up on all the Oscar films that are still, been nominated and everything. And so I've recommended this movie already before. I'm not going to use it as my recommendation. I got her to watch Weapons. She never watches horror movies. She was cackling the entire way through the film, especially at the end. She couldn't believe it. Her literal words to me at the end of it was, "What the fuck did we just watch?" in the best way. And then I she picked the next film, not an Oscar nominated film, but probably wanted to be. I watched, and Jay, I don't know if you saw this, Bill, I believe you have. I watched James Vanderbilt's Nuremberg.
Mm,
I saw it at
Haven't
TIFF.
checked out Nuremberg yet.
I've seen it.
And Bill, I don't know your thoughts on it. I think this is just gonna be one of those films that, you know, when you're on like YouTube clips and Instagram clips and stuff
I
like
am a
that,
dad. I'd probably
where
like
they
this.
just like take a scene and you watch like a scene for 2 minutes of something, and you're like, God, that movie's probably the greatest movie ever because that scene has actors using dialogue that's so, you know, like, it's great conversational dialogue.
Yeah.
And Michael Shannon and Russell Crowe and oh god, Richard E. Grant, they have some really great scenes, and it was reminding me. It still has a massive problem, which is it has Rami Malek in it, and he really
Mm.
just
Yikes.
takes the movie down for
It's
me.
got slattery.
But he got better the second go round. It's just there's the emotional stuff by the end didn't really work for me, but there's some good stuff in that film. I feel like it's going to be one of those that dads are going to find on TNT or on AMC or something, and or you
Probably
know,
not on cable. Not really thinking more.
probably on cable. You don't know
On
some,
Hulu.
but they're gonna find it, and I think they're gonna enjoy it. So I had a good time with it on the
I think you're
rewatch.
right. I did see it. And in fact, I was contemplating reviewing it, and it was kind of a busy period, so I wasn't able to do it. Um, but I think if I did review it, I think the title of my review would have been "The World Needs More Movies Like Nuremberg," and not necessarily because of the specific subject matter, but watching it, and you're right, it has flaws. I like Rami Malek more than you did, I think, but it's far from a perfect movie. Like I don't think even that movie's greatest admirers would not
It's
say
two
it's a
and a half
perfect
hours
movie,
long. Also,
which is not a problem.
but it
Which is not
doesn't.
a
But it
problem.
doesn't feel like it.
No,
Honestly,
it
it goes.
That's one
absolutely
of those that
flies
should be
by.
longer. Should
I
It's
be an hour
because
watched it.
longer.
honestly, it kind of wraps up a little quickly. It probably should have gone a little bit
Yeah,
longer.
and
Honestly,
Judgment at Nuremberg, the Stanley Kramer movie, is famously quite long.
yes.
But I watched it with my son actually, and there was a moment, there's a moment in the film where they show the camps, right? Footage of the camps, and it's footage
Mhm.
that is actually historical footage of the camps. And I remember, telling him, this is the actual footage from the camps, and I was like, "Have they taught you about this yet?" And he's like, "No, not yet." And I think they're getting to it. I mean, there's a lot of history to get through, but the thing, and I've talked about this in the past. I think I talked about this on Blank Check when I did Empire of the Sun. The sort of historical period prestige piece movie thing,
I know what you're
which
talking about.
which got a which got dinged a lot over the years. Which, when I was a kid, that was one of my favorite types of movies to watch. The history lesson, but it's like,
You were dad movies from day one.
oh, I
What
was
is the
dad
movie
movies
we're
from my
talking
youth.
about today, if not something like that? You know what I mean? Where it's
Yeah,
where it's. I mean, obviously they're not the
Kind of
same
just like
level,
it's like a
but
it's sort of like a
but
quasi romance.
yeah.
I mean, the
yeah.
ultimate dad movie of our time is Bridge of Spies,
Bridge of
and we
Spies,
love it,
sure.
and
And it
it's
is
a
a dad
masterpiece.
movie also about being a dad, which is my whole other thing about
But to
Spielberg
your
movies.
point,
But
like Bilge,
but
there's
like
like a whole industry of these from Britain and from us that have stopped being made.
these were I mean, it sounds
Sort of
insane
bread
to
and
say
butter.
this.
Yeah.
It sounds insane to say this, and it's probably on some level an admission of ignorance, although I did study this stuff as well. But like, this is how we learned about history. Like, I
It's
mean, and I've
that's
studied
actually true.
I
Yeah.
like I've studied Cambodian history, and I've been to Cambodia, and I've read a lot of Cambodian history and memoirs of the Khmer Rouge and stuff like that. But the first time I learned about it was watching The Killing Fields. Um,
Well, Ryan, this is my grand theory.
I mean, there were so many films that like, and this was
Don't
actually
start.
how, like, I actually think that there's some weird, and again, I haven't written about this. I've talked a little bit about it, and it sounds insane when I say it because so many of these films are not exactly accurate in the way they show things.
Yeah, yeah,
There
yeah.
was something integral to citizenship almost about like watching stuff like this and being exposed to stuff like this. You had some sense of history and how things worked. And like I learned about World War II in school, and I learned about World War II. I've read tons of books about it and stuff like that. But you know what? I probably first learned about World War II from movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learned
We don't
about,
do that
I
And
mean,
anymore.
then there's value in going back in the aftermath and being like, what was right, what was
Yeah,
accurate, and what wasn't
exactly.
accurate.
And we
Yeah.
yeah.
don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like we don't like it used to be that every year there would be multiple movies like Nuremberg. And now the only movies that can be like Nuremberg or that can kind of do this are basically movies that can only be greenlit by the most powerful filmmakers in Hollywood,
I
which
feel like they
basically
become the
Steven
mini,
Nuremberg probably
it's
made
Steven
like
Spielberg, Martin
$11 million.
Scorsese, and
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan.
and if
Those
it's,
three guys are keeping like the historical period piece alive.
well, and I would say somebody like Aaron Sorkin is probably one
This
too
is true.
that's,
Yeah, no, true,
doing
true.
that. But then I also, for the lack of better part of it, they become,
Clint was it for a while.
they
Clint was
become,
doing it for a while.
they become TV shows now.
They
You
do
know,
become TV shows, and I
like
should watch those
Masters
now.
of the Air that was on Apple
Yeah,
is a movie if I or you were growing up. You know what I mean?
Greyhound.
yeah.
Greyhound. You know what I mean? Like, well, nobody saw
We're-
Greyhound, even though that was
I'm
I
amazing.
sorry.
love
Yeah.
I've watched
I know,
Greyhound
I'm
like
not
3
slapping.
times. Yeah.
I'm just saying. Like, you know what I mean? But like,
You're right. And Chariots of Fire today would be a
it would be a
Netflix limited series.
miniseries
Yeah, yeah.
easily. Not even
And
like
it
up
wouldn't
for
be
it.
nearly as good.
No, it would not be. But we would get 6 seasons of it, and they would just be running the whole time. Like, and that's the shame of it. But like watching Nuremberg, the other thing about it, and this is another reason why, man, if you wrote about this, we'll get partial credit, is that the other thing to bounce off of your point about not even just the history is that roles and places for character actors to shine
Mhm.
through. So many of these films, these historical dramas, had these ensembles that
Mhm.
then guys and actors and actresses that I saw throughout my entire career, you built a filmography and a familiarity. Like when you watch Lincoln, like they're on like the 40th build as Adam Driver and
Dude,
David
Lincoln is, like, the
Oyelowo,
most loaded
Coleman
cast of all
Domingo,
time.
like Michael Stuhlbarg, Walton Goggins. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
all
I
these
guess what
people
the
like
biggest
down
the
the
biggest recent one was 1917, I guess.
yeah, but it's like
Big
two
one.
people. You know what I mean? Like
Well, I mean,
like
No, I know, but it was a big movie,
Oppenheimer.
though.
Oppenheimer's
Oppenheimer.
probably that.
Yeah,
Well,
And it
Oppenheimer.
has to be
You're
made
right.
by Christopher Nolan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's that's why like anybody gets mad at Nolan's making, because there were people like he's making a movie about Oppenheimer. It's like, yeah, he's making a movie that, like, guess what? Every kid's gonna watch in school, and they're gonna be like, gee, maybe that's not all the way accurate, maybe it is, but I'm gonna read the book and then I'm gonna get to know about it, and then maybe it dives in to what Jay calls the most important thing in, like, the most important war, and most
World War
interesting
II is the
war.
most important. We don't talk about it enough.
We don't talk
it's-
about it
That's
enough.
that's
Yeah.
my take. We don't talk
I
about
mean,
World War II enough.
it created the modern world. We live in, the modern
Everything
world
that's
is in
happening
the,
right
in
now,
the shadow of World War II.
like,
Yeah.
stems from World War II.
Oh
There
yeah,
you
absolutely.
go. And anyway, watch Nuremberg. It's available to stream. And you
We
can.
just did a whole podcast.
We
about
just did a whole
Nuremberg.
podcast about it. Also, so who
We're
knows?
finally talking about World War II.
We're finally talking about it, and finally talking about Nuremberg. So then, next week we will be back. We will be talking about I Know Where I'm Going. Right, Jay? That's the next film.
Yeah, good film.
In our series. Good film. And it'll just be me and Jay talking about that next week. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time.